In the quiet glow of a candle's flame, the world slows into a gentler rhythm. Papers rest in neat piles, ink dries softly on a wooden desk, and the faint crackle of fire blends with the sound of distant night. It's here, in this stillness, that the life of Benjamin Franklin begins to unfold, not as a distant historical figure, but as a young man shaped by curiosity and quiet determination. Tonight, we step into his world, guided only by soft light and calm reflection. Let your breath steady as we drift into a story of invention, resilience, and the timeless search for wisdom. Benjamin Franklin is remembered as a statesman, a scientist, a writer, and an inventor, but he was first a boy who loved asking questions. His story carries a soothing rhythm, the kind that reveals itself slowly, like pages turning in an old book. Through long nights of study and early mornings of work, he discovered that knowledge was not a destination, but a lantern, always ready to be carried forward. His life invites us to explore not just the events that shaped him, but the quiet mindset that moved him through every challenge. As you listen, allow the calmness of his journey to guide you toward rest. This is not a tale of immediate greatness, but of steady growth. The Benjamin you'll meet tonight begins in a small, crowded home, surrounded by simple routines and humble expectations. There were no signals of the extraordinary life ahead, only a young mind learning to observe, to listen, and to imagine. His story reminds us that greatness often begins quietly, long before anyone notices. Let this gentle beginning help your thoughts settle into stillness. And now, as the candle flickers softly in the background, let us move into the early chapters of Benjamin Franklin's life, where curiosity was his compass, humility was his teacher, and the world around him quietly encouraged his restless desire to learn. Allow the journey to unfold at its own serene pace. This is Benjamin Franklin, from boyhood into the earliest sparks of a remarkable mind. Benjamin Franklin entered the world on January 17, 1706, in a modest house on Milk Street in Boston. The home was small, usually filled with the lively noise of children running about or the steady clatter of household work. He was the 15th of 17 siblings, born into a family that valued practical living over lofty ambition. His father, Josiah Franklin, worked as a candle and soap maker, a craft that required steady hands and patient effort. For Benjamin, these early years were shaped by the scent of melted tallow, the hum of daily labor, and the sense of belonging that comes from a bustling family. The Franklin household was not wealthy, but it was rich in discipline and modest wisdom. Josiah encouraged honesty, hard work, and moral clarity, believing these traits were worth more than any coin. Benjamin watched his father closely, noticing the calm way he approached problems and the thoughtful care he placed into every task. Even at a young age, Benjamin was fascinated by how things worked, why candles burned brighter when trimmed, why the flame flickered in certain directions, and how small changes could improve the final result. These small observations would one day echo into his life as an inventor. Education came early but briefly for young Benjamin. He attended the Boston Latin School for a short time before financial strain made continued schooling difficult. Yet he did not see this as a limitation. Benjamin developed a deep love for reading, finding comfort in the quiet presence of books. He read everything he could: sermons, travel journals, essays, and scientific works, often borrowing books late at night or trading chores for reading time. The pages became his private companions, offering a window into worlds far beyond Boston's narrow streets. The more he read, the more he felt a gentle stirring of ambition. Not ambition for fame or wealth, but for understanding. He sensed that knowledge could expand his life far beyond its current boundaries, opening doors that simple circumstance might otherwise keep closed. Books taught him language, logic, and curiosity, lessons that would become essential tools in his future. In these quiet nights of study, a foundation was forming, shaped not by tutors or formal classrooms, but by Benjamin's own steady determination. By the time he reached his early teens, Benjamin's restless mind was becoming unmistakable. Josiah noticed his son's quickness and thoughtful way of speaking, but he also recognized the limitations of keeping him in the family candle shop. Benjamin tried the work, dipping wicks and shaping wax, yet the repetitive tasks left him yearning for something more. His father sensed it too, the feeling that Benjamin was meant for a different kind of craft, one involving ideas rather than materials. And so Josiah began searching for a trade that could better match his son's growing interests. Eventually, he found one. At 12 years old, Benjamin was apprenticed to his older brother James, a printer who ran a small shop in Boston. The printing trade was a world of ink, paper, and ideas, and it suited Benjamin perfectly. The shop was filled with the press's rhythmic creaks, the earthy smell of ink, and the constant arrival of words waiting to be shaped into printed form. Though the work was physically demanding, Benjamin felt an immediate connection to its rhythm. Each day brought something new to learn, and he absorbed it all with quiet satisfaction. Printing exposed him to a wider world of thought. Newspapers, pamphlets, essays, all passed through his hands. He observed the debates of the day, the bold arguments of local writers, and the unfolding politics of the colonies. Even when he was simply sweeping the floor or arranging type, he listened closely to the conversations around him. These early exposures awakened something powerful, an interest in public life, in ideas that could shape communities, and in words that could travel farther than any single person ever could. But apprenticeship came with challenges too. James, his brother and master, was strict and often demanding. Their relationship was complicated, marked by moments of instruction, but also tension and stubbornness. Benjamin longed for freedom, for the ability to express his own thoughts, yet as an apprentice, he had little control over his own path. Still, the difficulty taught him patience. It taught him how to navigate differences, how to handle authority, and how to stay steady even when days grew frustrating. These lessons quietly prepared him for leadership well before he realized it. What Benjamin lacked in freedom, he made up for in creativity. At night, after the shop grew quiet, he practiced writing in secret. He studied great authors, imitating their structure and style, gradually shaping his own voice through steady practice. Over time, his skill grew strong enough that he felt ready to contribute publicly. But James would never publish work from an apprentice. And so, at just 16 years old, Benjamin devised a clever plan. He wrote letters under the fictional name Silence Do Good, slipping them anonymously under the shop door for publication. The letters were thoughtful, humorous, and surprisingly insightful for someone so young. Readers loved them, unaware that the author was a teenager working quietly in the same print shop where they were produced. Each new letter filled Benjamin with a quiet thrill, not because he sought attention, but because he felt the power of expressing ideas that resonated with others. Through these writings, he discovered that his voice, calm, clever, and observant, could reach people in a way few other things could. The experience strengthened his confidence and deepened his love for the printed word. But when the truth eventually came out, James was furious. The success of the letters embarrassed him, and tension in the shop grew sharper than ever. Benjamin, now more aware of his own potential, found himself longing for independence. The apprenticeship contract bound him legally, yet the environment became increasingly restrictive. After a particularly harsh dispute, he made a quiet but life-changing decision. He would leave. Not with anger, but with a sense that his future required a broader horizon. And so, at just 17 years old, Benjamin Franklin slipped away from Boston, boarding a boat that took him to New York and eventually to Philadelphia. He carried little more than a few coins and a strong sense of determination. The journey was difficult, marked by uncertainty and unfamiliar streets, but Benjamin felt a calm assurance guiding him forward. He believed that somewhere out there a new beginning was waiting, one shaped by his curiosity, his work ethic, and his quiet hope for a meaningful life. This moment, though small in appearance, marked the beginning of a remarkable transformation. Philadelphia greeted him with gentle morning light, and a city far less crowded than Boston. Benjamin walked along the streets with a loaf of bread under each arm, a simple but memorable detail he would later recall with humor. Despite having almost nothing, he felt strangely at peace. The new city offered no expectations, no past conflicts, and no boundaries he could not eventually cross. He sensed that he had found a place where his life could expand, shaped by effort rather than circumstance. This new chapter began quietly, just as his life had begun, not with grand declarations, but with small steps guided by curiosity and hope. The boy who once melted wax in his father's workshop was now a young man ready to explore the world on his own terms. The skills he carried, reading, writing, observing, and working diligently, would soon bloom into the foundations of an extraordinary life. But for now, Benjamin simply breathed, listened, and settled into the gentle rhythm of possibility. As the first days in Philadelphia unfolded, he found work, new acquaintances, and, most importantly, a sense of direction. Benjamin did not yet know the heights he would reach or the legacy he would one day leave behind. He only knew that each quiet decision, each humble moment of learning, was guiding him towards something greater. In these early steps, the seeds of wisdom, creativity, and leadership were beginning to take root. Philadelphia quickly became a place of quiet hope for Benjamin Franklin, even if he arrived with almost nothing. The city was younger and gentler than Boston, its streets wider, and its people less bound by old traditions. As Benjamin walked with his simple bundle of belongings, he observed everything: the markets, the river, the steady movement of craftsmen at work. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt a calm sense of belonging, as though the city had been waiting for him. This feeling settled into his mind like a soft reassurance that he had chosen the right path. Soon after arriving, Benjamin found employment at a printer's shop run by Samuel Keimer, a man whose business was struggling, but whose need for skilled help was immediate. Benjamin entered the shop quietly, offering to demonstrate his abilities, and Keimer, desperate for assistance, agreed. The environment was far from ideal. Disorganized tools, worn materials, and financial troubles looming in the background. Yet Benjamin saw opportunity rather than chaos. He approached his work with calm diligence, repairing equipment, arranging type, and improving the shop's daily operations. His presence brought a sense of order to a place that had long been without it. His skill did not go unnoticed. Within days, local merchants and townspeople began asking who the young, hard-working printer was. They noticed his steady pace, his thoughtful manner, and his unusual ability to solve problems quietly and efficiently. Philadelphia was a city that valued practicality, and Benjamin embodied it perfectly. He did not boast about his abilities, he simply demonstrated them through action. In this new environment, far from his brother's strictness, he felt his confidence grow with every task he completed. Despite his progress, Benjamin's life in Philadelphia remained humble. His meals were simple, often consisting of bread, raisins, and water, both inexpensive and symbolic of his disciplined nature. He found lodging in modest rooms and spent his evenings reading rather than socializing. Books remained his constant companions, guiding his thoughts toward self-improvement and new ideas. Even in these quiet nights, he sensed that learning would shape every chapter of his future. His solitude did not make him lonely. It made him focused. It was during this period that Benjamin began shaping a personal philosophy that would influence him for the rest of his life. He believed that character was not inherited but cultivated through daily choices. Each morning he asked himself what good he could accomplish, and each evening he reflected on whether he had acted with integrity. This method, simple and introspective, allowed him to maintain peace of mind even in uncertain times. He felt grounded by this routine, guided by the belief that improvement came not through dramatic change, but through quiet consistency. Philadelphia, to him, became both a workplace and a classroom. Though Benjamin had escaped the tensions of Boston, he was not free from challenges. Keimer's unpredictable behavior, shifting moods, and unstable finances often threatened the stability of the shop. At times, Benjamin worried about losing his job entirely if the business collapsed. But rather than panic, he approached each difficulty with patience, steadying the shop as best he could. His calmness in the face of uncertainty became one of his defining traits, helping him navigate circumstances that might have discouraged others. This quiet resilience became a source of strength he carried throughout his life. Outside the printing shop, Philadelphia offered Benjamin new influences that broadened his perspective. He discovered the quiet, thoughtful culture of Quakers, people who valued simplicity, humility, and peaceful living. Their calm manner of speaking, their reflective gatherings, and their emphasis on inner discipline deeply impressed him. Although his beliefs did not fully align with theirs, he admired their commitment to living gently in a restless world. He adopted aspects of their philosophy, particularly the idea that a steady mind could create a steady life. This influence would echo in his later work, both scientific and political. Benjamin's reputation continued to grow, attracting the attention of important figures in the city. One of them was Sir William Keith, the colonial governor of Pennsylvania. Keith, impressed by Benjamin's ambition and skill, encouraged him to consider opening his own printing business. He spoke warmly of Benjamin's future, offering to support him financially and guide him through the process. To a 17-year-old who had traveled alone with no money, this felt like a remarkable blessing. Benjamin listened respectfully, feeling both excitement and cautious hope. For the first time, he imagined himself not merely working in a shop, but owning one. Governor Keith's encouragement was flattering, but Benjamin remained thoughtful. He wondered whether he was ready, whether he possessed enough experience or resources to begin such a venture. Still, Keith's confidence in him was persuasive. Eventually, the young printer allowed himself to believe that he might indeed be capable of forging an independent path. The governor insisted that Benjamin travel to London to acquire printing equipment and establish connections. Though the idea seemed daunting, Benjamin trusted Keith's guidance, believing that this journey could be the next step in his development. Quietly, he began preparing for the voyage. Before leaving, Benjamin informed his family in Boston of his plans. Some were supportive, admiring his determination, while others expressed concern at the risks involved. His father, wise and experienced, doubted that the governor would truly provide financial backing. He urged his son to be cautious, reminding him that not all promises were dependable. Yet Benjamin, eager for opportunity and driven by the governor's confidence, decided to proceed anyway. He believed that taking a bold step was necessary, even if uncertainty lay ahead. With this mindset, he boarded the ship that would carry him across the ocean. The journey to London was long, quiet, and filled with moments of reflection. Benjamin spent much of his time reading, observing the sea, and thinking about the life he hoped to create. At night, he listened to the gentle rocking of the ship, feeling both excitement and calm anticipation. The ocean seemed endless, a reminder of how far he had traveled from his childhood home. Yet, instead of fear, he felt a growing sense of clarity. He realized that life's greatest opportunities often emerged from stepping into the unknown. This thought settled into his heart like a gentle encouragement. When Benjamin finally arrived in London, he discovered a truth that would test him deeply. Governor Keith's promises had been empty. There was no money waiting for him, no printing equipment arranged, no letters of support to open doors. Benjamin found himself alone in a vast, bustling city, without the means to begin the business he had been promised. The revelation stung, not just because of the practical consequences, but because it challenged his trust. Yet, even in disappointment, he did not allow frustration to overwhelm him. He accepted the situation with calm resolve, understanding that setbacks were simply part of life's quiet lessons. With limited options, Benjamin sought work among London's printing shops, and soon he was employed at a well-established firm. The work was steady, the wages modest, and the environment far more structured than anything he had experienced before. Though the city was loud and crowded, he maintained his inner stillness, focusing on learning rather than lamenting the past. Each day he improved his skills, strengthened his work habits, and expanded his understanding of people and their ideas. London, rather than a setback, became another stage of growth, another candlelit chapter in his journey toward wisdom. Despite the challenges, London offered Benjamin something precious: time for self-discovery. He met new friends, engaged in thoughtful discussions, and observed the lively intellectual circles of the city. He visited bookshops, printing houses, and meeting halls where people debated philosophy, science, and politics. This exposure broadened his thinking, showing him how large the world truly was. Yet even in the vastness of London, he remained grounded. He lived modestly, avoiding unnecessary indulgence, and continued writing, reading, and improving both his craft and his character. The city shaped him quietly, without spectacle. Though Benjamin worked diligently, a small part of him yearned for home. He missed the quieter pace of Philadelphia, the sense of potential waiting there, and the simpler rhythm of colonial life. London was instructive, but it was not where he belonged. Eventually, he began saving his earnings with the intention of returning to America. He wanted to carry back the knowledge he had gained, the discipline he had refined, and the deeper sense of purpose that London had awakened in him. The decision to return felt peaceful, not rushed. It felt like the natural next step in his unfolding story. By the time he left London to sail home, Benjamin Franklin was no longer the uncertain young man who had arrived with misplaced trust. He had grown wiser, calmer, and more capable. He had learned that setbacks could be transformed into strength, and that life's challenges often prepared him for future success. As the ship carried him back across the Atlantic, he stood on deck, watching the waves move steadily beneath him. He felt grateful for every lesson, the disappointments, the friendships, the hours of work, and the quiet nights spent thinking. All of it had shaped him into who he was becoming. Philadelphia awaited him once again, offering new possibilities, new friendships, and new opportunities for growth. Benjamin did not yet know the path he would take, nor the inventions, writings, and leadership roles that would one day define him. For now, he simply carried with him a calm heart, a steady mind, and a belief that every experience, good or difficult, held meaning. The young man who returned was stronger than the one who had left, preparing quietly for the extraordinary life that lay ahead. With each gentle breath, he stepped toward his future, guided by curiosity and the quiet certainty that he was ready. When Benjamin Franklin returned to Philadelphia, he found the city much as he had left it, calm, industrious, and quietly full of opportunities. The familiar streets welcomed him with their gentle bustle, and he felt a sense of relief to breathe air that carried memories rather than disappointment. Though London had taught him many lessons, Philadelphia felt like home, a place where he could build rather than simply survive. As he stepped off the ship, he carried not only his belongings, but also a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that whatever came next would be shaped by his own efforts. He soon found work at a respected printing house run by Thomas Denham, a merchant who admired Benjamin's honesty and skill. Denham treated him not simply as an employee, but as a young man with potential. Their conversations were warm and steady, often centered on character, discipline, and the pursuit of a meaningful life. Benjamin appreciated Denham's gentle guidance, feeling as though fate had placed a quiet mentor in his path. Under this new employment, he regained stability and rediscovered the comforting rhythm of diligent work. During this time, Benjamin began to think more seriously about the kind of life he wanted to build. He studied not only books, but also human nature, paying close attention to how people interacted, how they solved problems, and how they formed communities. His curiosity about the world deepened into a desire to improve it in small but meaningful ways. Even at this early stage, he sensed that work alone would not define him. It would be his contributions to the lives of others. This thought guided his choices gently and steadily. A turning point came when Benjamin formed a friendship with a group of young men who shared his love for learning. They gathered regularly to discuss books, philosophy, science, and the daily issues of life in the colonies. The group became a quiet intellectual refuge, a place where ideas could be explored freely and respectfully. Benjamin found great comfort in these gatherings, which would eventually grow into something far larger and more influential. But for now, they simply gave him companionship and a sense of belonging. At the heart of these discussions was Benjamin's belief that improvement, whether personal or societal, should never stop. He began keeping notes on habits he admired and faults he wished to overcome. His mind was restless in a peaceful way, always searching for ways to refine his thinking and actions. Through this self-reflection, he created a list of virtues he hoped to cultivate, including moderation, industry, sincerity, and humility. This personal system became a quiet compass, shaping the choices he made each day. But life is rarely steady for long. Not long after Benjamin found his footing, Thomas Denham fell gravely ill. The loss struck Benjamin deeply, not only because Denham had been a kind employer, but because he had offered something few others had: trust. With Denham's passing, Benjamin once again found himself without stable work. Yet, instead of despair, he felt a familiar calm determination rise within him. Every setback held a lesson, and every lesson prepared him for the next chapter of his life. Benjamin returned to printing, this time with more experience, more confidence, and a clearer sense of purpose. He worked for various shops, taking careful note of what succeeded and what faltered within the industry. He observed how business owners managed their accounts, how they treated their customers, and how they handled competition. Through these observations, Benjamin quietly built an understanding of what would one day become his own printing enterprise. Though he did not yet have the means to open his own shop, the vision was beginning to take shape in his mind. Philadelphia's community continued to draw Benjamin into deeper involvement. He became known not only for his skillful printing, but also for his calm manner and thoughtful conversation. People sought his opinions, asked him for help with writing, and valued his presence in gatherings. It was in these moments that Benjamin discovered something essential: that leadership does not begin with authority, but with helpfulness. By offering support to others, he naturally grew into a respected figure in the city. This quiet rise in influence would later play a profound role in shaping his legacy. Even in the smallest details of daily life, Benjamin carried a sense of purpose. Whether he was setting type in a print shop, engaging in discussion, or reading late into the night, he approached each task with mindful attention. He believed that no action was insignificant if it contributed to growth. Philadelphia, with its gentle pace and steady opportunities, became a living classroom for him. Every experience felt like preparation for something bigger, though he did not yet know what form that something would take. Over time, Benjamin's desire for independence grew stronger. He knew that to contribute meaningfully to the world, he would need the freedom to shape his work according to his own standards. The dream of establishing his own printing shop began to return, this time not as a distant imagination, but as a practical goal. He saved every possible coin, studied every aspect of the trade, and waited patiently for the right moment. When the opportunity finally arose, he was ready, steady, focused, and determined to build a life that reflected the values he treasured. Benjamin Franklin's journey toward becoming an independent printer began quietly, shaped not by sudden inspiration, but by years of observation and preparation. He approached the idea with a calm, methodical mindset, recognizing that success depended on careful planning rather than ambition alone. With each passing month, he saved money, refined his writing, and strengthened his reputation in Philadelphia. His evenings were filled with reflection, imagining how he would organize his shop, how he would serve his customers, and how he could provide something meaningful to the growing city. The dream, once fragile, began to feel within reach. The opportunity arrived when a local printer considered leaving the trade and selling his equipment. Benjamin studied the situation carefully, weighing the risks and advantages with steady attention. He understood that owning a printing business meant more than simply producing papers. It meant becoming a trusted voice in the community. After thoughtful deliberation, he decided to take the chance. With borrowed funds and his own modest savings, he purchased the equipment and opened a small yet ambitious print shop. Its humble appearance did not discourage him. He knew that great work could emerge from simple beginnings. From the opening day, Benjamin approached his work with disciplined commitment. He woke early, labored late, and carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who believed deeply in his craft. His shop quickly gained a reputation for accuracy, fairness, and reliability. Customers appreciated the calm professionalism with which he handled their requests, always delivering what he promised. In an era where many businesses struggled to maintain consistency, Benjamin's steady approach set him apart. His dedication became the cornerstone of his success. But Benjamin did more than print, he wrote. His essays, pamphlets, and thoughtful commentaries began circulating throughout the city. They were clear, sincere, and often filled with gentle wisdom that resonated with readers. People admired his ability to express ideas in ways that felt both accessible and meaningful. His writing strengthened his reputation, turning his printing press into not just a business, but a platform. The words he printed shaped conversations, influenced opinions, and encouraged reflection among the people of Philadelphia. One of Benjamin's most influential creations during this period was the Pennsylvania Gazette, a newspaper he would eventually acquire and transform into one of the most respected publications in the colonies. Under his leadership, the paper became known for its balanced tone, informative content, and occasional humor. He believed that news should enlighten rather than alarm, educate rather than divide. Readers appreciated this thoughtful approach, finding comfort in the paper's gentle, measured perspective. The Gazette became not only a success but a reflection of Benjamin's calm and curious spirit. His business flourished because he understood something essential. That quality mattered more than speed. He took care in every detail, from the clarity of the print to the precision of the language. Even when orders piled up, he maintained his steady rhythm, ensuring that nothing left his shop unless it met his standards. This commitment built trust, and trust drew customers. Slowly, the once struggling young printer became one of the most respected businessmen in Philadelphia. Outside of printing, Benjamin continued nurturing his love for community and learning. He gathered his circle of friends more frequently, turning their discussions into something more structured and purposeful. This group, rooted in curiosity and a desire for improvement, would become the foundation of the Junto, a small society dedicated to mutual growth and civic betterment. The Junto met regularly, sharing ideas on how they could improve themselves and their city. Through these gatherings, Benjamin began shaping the collaborative, thoughtful leadership style that would later define his public life. Through the junto, Benjamin's influence expanded beyond the walls of his print shop. He and his companions discussed ways to improve Philadelphia's libraries, roads, fire brigades, and public services. Many of their ideas eventually became real institutions, transforming the city into one of the most forward-thinking communities in the colonies. Benjamin approached each improvement with careful planning and quiet persistence, never seeking attention for himself. Instead, he found pride in seeing his ideas serve others, believing that civic responsibility began with small, thoughtful actions. As Benjamin's success grew, so did his sense of humility. He understood that fortune could change quickly, and he believed that character mattered far more than recognition. To keep himself grounded, he continued practicing his personal virtues, reviewing them regularly, and striving to live according to them. He saw self-discipline not as a restriction, but as a path toward a clearer, more peaceful life. This inward work supported the outward progress he made, creating a balance that sustained him through both success and challenge. Over time, Benjamin's printing shop became a symbol of reliability and creativity in Philadelphia. Its gentle candle light often glowed late into the night, illuminating the young printer as he worked on essays, newspapers, and projects that would shape the colony's future. He still lived simply, choosing moderation even when his earnings increased. He preferred investing in books, tools, and community efforts rather than luxuries. His life, though humble, was filled with purpose, a quiet example of how dedication and calm persistence can transform ordinary beginnings into extraordinary outcomes. By the close of this chapter in his life, Benjamin Franklin had evolved from a wandering young worker into a respected printer, writer, and community leader. His shop was thriving, his ideas were influencing the city, and his friendships were deepening into networks of shared purpose. But he sensed that this was only the beginning. There were still inventions to create, institutions to build, and chapters of service waiting ahead. For now, though, he allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction, grateful for the path that had carried him so far. Step by steady step, guided by curiosity, humility, and an unwavering desire to improve. As Benjamin Franklin settled more deeply into his life as a printer and community figure in Philadelphia, a gentle transformation began within him. His daily work continued to provide structure, but his mind drifted constantly toward new ideas, new questions, and new possibilities. The printing press had sharpened his discipline, yet it also exposed him to scientific discoveries and philosophical debates that stirred his imagination. He felt a quiet restlessness, not of dissatisfaction, but of curiosity expanding beyond the familiar boundaries of his trade. The seeds of invention were already taking root, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Benjamin had always observed the world with unusual attention, noticing the small details that others often overlooked. Whether it was the pattern of sparks from a fire, the movement of air through a window, or the way materials responded to heat and pressure, his mind instinctively searched for patterns and explanations. Every object held a story, every problem suggested a solution. He did not approach invention with urgency but with gentle fascination, allowing each idea to unfold naturally. This calm, thoughtful exploration created the perfect environment for creativity to flourish. In his spare hours, Benjamin began experimenting with household objects, tools, and simple mechanisms. He handled materials with patient curiosity, studying how they moved and interacted. These moments of quiet exploration were deeply satisfying to him, offering peace as well as intellectual stimulation. Some evenings he would stay awake long after the city had grown silent, writing notes about concepts he hoped to test the next day. These early experiments were not grand or groundbreaking, yet they shaped the disciplined, inventive mind that would later astonish the world. One of Benjamin's first well-known inventions was born from a desire for comfort and efficiency: the Franklin stove. Traditional stoves wasted much of their heat and filled homes with smoke, a constant frustration during cold winters. Benjamin saw the problem clearly and wondered how he could create something safer, cleaner, and more effective. After months of quiet tinkering, he designed a stove that used less wood, emitted less smoke, and circulated heat more efficiently. It was a simple improvement, yet it made daily life noticeably better. This invention revealed the heart of his creativity, not to astonish, but to help. Despite the usefulness of the Franklin stove, Benjamin refused to patent the design. He believed that ideas meant to benefit society should remain accessible to everyone. This philosophy became central to his approach as an inventor. He viewed innovation as a shared gift, something that belonged to the common good rather than the individual. Letting go of ownership was not a sacrifice for him. It was a quiet expression of gratitude for the knowledge and opportunities the world had offered. In this mindset, he found a sense of peace that no financial reward could match. Around this time, Benjamin's interest in electricity began to grow. At first, it was merely a curiosity sparked by articles and letters he encountered through his printing work. Scientists in Europe were beginning to explore electrical phenomena, conducting experiments that captured Benjamin's imagination. The idea that invisible forces could move through the air, create sparks, and influence matter fascinated him deeply. He began studying the topic in earnest, ordering supplies, reading scientific papers, and replicating experiments with careful precision. Each observation felt like a small doorway opening into a larger universe. As his understanding increased, Benjamin began formulating theories of his own. He believed that electricity was not a series of separate events, but a single fluid capable of flowing through materials in predictable ways. This idea challenged common thinking and pushed him to test it through more complex experiments. His home became a quiet laboratory filled with glass tubes, metal rods, and delicate apparatuses arranged with patient care. Neighbors occasionally heard unusual sounds from his workshop, but Benjamin continued calmly, unbothered by curiosity or confusion from others. He was searching for clarity, and the search itself brought him joy. Benjamin's experiments became increasingly intricate, yet he maintained the same calm, methodical approach. He recorded every observation, every result, and every question with meticulous precision. He believed that science required both curiosity and discipline, a balance he cultivated naturally. At times, he felt as though he were walking through a dimly lit room, discovering more with each step. He advanced not through sudden leaps, but through steady, thoughtful progress. His work did not feel like labor, but like a quiet conversation with the natural world. His growing interest in science did not pull him away from his responsibilities. Each day he continued to run his print shop, participate in the junto, and contribute to community improvements. He understood that invention and public service were not separate pursuits but complementary ones. Scientific discovery for him was simply another way of helping people. Whether he was improving a stove, organizing a library, or experimenting with electricity, the intention behind his work remained the same: to make life more comfortable, more understandable, and more connected. Through this period, Benjamin's calm persistence shaped him into one of the most thoughtful inventors of his time. He did not rush toward recognition or seek dramatic breakthroughs. Instead, he followed ideas gently, allowing them to develop through observation and patient experimentation. His mind was like a still pond, receptive, reflective, and quietly deep. As his reputation grew, so did the complexity of his work. He was stepping into a new phase of his life, one where invention and scientific discovery would take center stage. The world was beginning to notice, but Benjamin remained grounded, guided by the same curiosity that had shaped him since childhood. As Benjamin's fascination with electricity deepened, he found himself drawn into the broader world of scientific inquiry. Letters began arriving from scientists in Europe, sharing findings, theories, and questions about electrical behavior. Benjamin read each one with quiet excitement, appreciating the sense of global community that science created. He realized that curiosity connected people across oceans, bridging cultures through shared wonder. This realization filled him with both inspiration and humility, reminding him that knowledge was a collective journey. Benjamin's experiments grew more ambitious as he continued exploring the mysteries of electricity. He developed equipment to observe electrical charges, conduct experiments safely, and measure the flow of current. One of his most elegant tools was the Leyden jar, a device that stored electrical energy. By carefully adjusting its components, he gained insight into how electrical charges accumulated and discharged. His observations led him to propose that lightning was a natural form of electricity, a bold theory at the time. Yet he approached it not with arrogance, but with calm curiosity, letting the evidence guide his thinking. Even as his theories evolved, Benjamin maintained a gentle and humble approach to sharing them. He wrote detailed letters describing his experiments, carefully outlining each step so others could replicate his work. He believed that knowledge should flow freely, like electricity itself, reaching anyone who sought understanding. His correspondence introduced new terms and concepts that would become foundational in the study of electricity. Through his writing, he made complex scientific ideas accessible, strengthening the global network of curious minds. His style was clear, thoughtful, and grounded in practical observation. It was during this period that Benjamin conceived the idea for the famous kite experiment, an attempt to prove the connection between lightning and electricity. Contrary to common myth, his version of the experiment was conducted with careful precautions, minimizing risk while maximizing clarity. He designed a simple kite with a metal key attached to its string, waiting for a storm to test his theory. As lightning flickered in the clouds, he observed the key closely, watching for signs of electrical charge. When the key sparked in response, he felt a profound sense of confirmation, not of triumph, but of understanding. This moment, though dramatic in the retelling, was quiet for Benjamin. He stood beneath the storm, aware of both the power of nature and the responsibility of observing it safely. The experiment confirmed his belief that lightning and electricity were one and the same, a discovery that would reshape the world's understanding of weather and physics. Yet Benjamin did not celebrate loudly. Instead, he quietly recorded the results, refining his theory with calm precision. His satisfaction came not from recognition but from the gentle unfolding of truth. The significance of the kite experiment spread quickly, capturing the attention of scientists and philosophers across Europe. Benjamin found himself at the center of international scientific discourse, praised for both his insight and his humility. Honors were offered, societies extended membership, and scholars quoted his work with admiration. Yet, despite the growing attention, Benjamin remained grounded. He continued to run his shop, engage in civic projects, and prioritize the well-being of his community. For him, scientific discovery was not a destination, but another step in a lifelong journey of understanding. One of Benjamin's most important contributions following the kite experiment was his development of the lightning rod. He believed that if lightning was indeed electrical, it could be directed safely into the ground, rather than allowed to strike homes and buildings. He designed a simple iron rod that extended above rooftops, offering a safe path for electrical charges during storms. The invention became one of the most practical and life-saving innovations of the century. Benjamin took quiet satisfaction in knowing that his work protected families, preserved property, and prevented fires, a gentle act of service born from curiosity. As his scientific accomplishments grew, so did his influence as a thinker. Scholars admired his ability to merge practicality with imagination, blending everyday experience with deep investigation. His calm, steady approach to problem-solving resonated with people from all walks of life. Whether he was addressing civic concerns, discussing philosophy with friends, or experimenting with electrical devices in his workshop, Benjamin embodied the idea that knowledge was meant to illuminate, not intimidate. His work encouraged others to explore their own curiosity, fueling a broader cultural appreciation for scientific inquiry. Throughout this chapter of his life, Benjamin remained deeply committed to personal reflection. He continued practicing his virtues, reviewing his progress each day, and striving to maintain balance between ambition and humility. Even as his fame spread across continents, he reminded himself of the importance of living with intention and gratitude. His scientific achievements did not change the core of who he was, a thoughtful, observant man who sought to understand the world so he could help improve it. The calmness he carried through each success and setback became a quiet example for all who knew him. By the end of this period, Benjamin Franklin was no longer known merely as a printer or a community leader. He had become a respected scientist, an inventor, and a philosopher whose ideas influenced the colonies and beyond. Yet his life still felt open, full of possibility. He sensed that more chapters awaited him, chapters involving diplomacy, leadership, and the shaping of a new nation. But for now, he allowed himself to rest in the gentle satisfaction of discovery, grateful for the steady path that had brought him here. His journey was far from over, and every step forward still began with the same quiet question: what can be learned next? As Benjamin Franklin's reputation as a thinker and scientist grew, a gentle shift began in his life. His inventions had brought comfort, his writings had brought clarity, and his experiments had brought insight. Yet he felt a deeper calling growing within him. He realized that the same principles guiding his scientific curiosity could be applied to the challenges facing his community. Just as he had studied electricity to understand its patterns, he began studying society with equal attentiveness. Slowly, Benjamin's interests expanded from the quiet world of invention into the broader, more complex realm of public service. Philadelphia was a thriving city, but like all growing communities, it faced many problems. Fires broke out unexpectedly, leaving families vulnerable. Streets grew crowded, often dirty and unorganized. Books were difficult to access, limiting opportunities for education. Benjamin observed these issues not with frustration, but with thoughtful curiosity, considering how he might contribute solutions. He believed that a community, like an invention, functioned best when every part supported the whole. His desire to help did not come from ambition, but from a calm sense of responsibility. One of Benjamin's earliest public contributions was the establishment of the Library Company of Philadelphia, the first successful subscription library in the American colonies. Through the junto, he proposed the idea of pooling funds to acquire books that everyone could share. The concept was simple and practical, reflecting his belief that knowledge should be accessible to all. The library soon became a hub of learning, attracting scholars, merchants, and curious citizens alike. Benjamin took quiet pride in seeing people gather around shared wisdom, strengthening both themselves and their community. His next endeavor was the creation of a more effective postal system. The existing mail service was slow and unreliable, causing delays in communication between towns and colonies. With careful study, Benjamin identified ways to improve routes, increase efficiency, and standardize delivery. His suggestions were practical, born from the same methodical thinking that guided his experiments. When his reforms were eventually implemented, the colonies benefited from smoother communication, fostering connection across great distances. Benjamin saw this not as a personal achievement, but as a necessary improvement for a growing society. Benjamin also recognized the need for organized protection against fires, which posed serious threats in densely populated areas. He proposed the formation of the Union Fire Company, a volunteer organization dedicated to preventing and responding to fires. The group emphasized preparedness, teamwork, and responsible conduct, values Benjamin held deeply. The fire company became an influential model for similar organizations across the colonies. Through it, he demonstrated that ordinary citizens, acting together with calm discipline, could solve significant problems without relying solely on government intervention. Another of Benjamin's notable public contributions was the founding of the American Philosophical Society, a community of thinkers dedicated to scientific study and intellectual exchange. He believed that knowledge grew stronger when shared, and the society embodied this principle. Members met regularly to discuss experiments, theories, and discoveries from around the world. The gatherings felt like an extension of the junto, but with a broader and more ambitious purpose. Benjamin often guided these discussions with gentle curiosity, encouraging thoughtful dialogue where every voice held value. Benjamin's growing involvement in public life did not diminish his humility. He understood that his success came not from innate brilliance, but from steady effort, curiosity, and a willingness to serve others. To maintain balance, he continued practicing his personal virtues, reviewing them each day and acknowledging where he fell short. This ongoing self-examination kept him grounded, reminding him that improvement was a lifelong pursuit. The more he contributed to society, the more he felt responsible for living with integrity. One of the city's most pressing needs was a hospital, as illnesses and injuries often went untreated due to a lack of proper facilities. Benjamin collaborated with local doctors and community leaders to propose the creation of the Pennsylvania Hospital, the first public hospital in the colonies. He helped secure funding through a combination of private donations and public support, using his writing and public influence to inspire action. To him, the hospital was not merely a building, but a symbol of compassion, a place where the vulnerable could receive care without judgment. Its creation reflected his belief that a community's strength is measured by how it supports its most fragile members. Education, too, became one of Benjamin's passions. He envisioned a school that offered practical and classical learning, preparing young people for meaningful lives. With support from the community, he helped establish an institution that would eventually become the University of Pennsylvania. Benjamin believed that education should cultivate not only knowledge, but also critical thinking and moral character. He approached this endeavor with the same calm, deliberate planning that had guided all his projects. To him, nurturing future generations was one of the most important investments a society could make. Through each of these contributions, Benjamin demonstrated a rare blend of practicality and vision. He saw problems clearly and solutions simply, always grounded in the belief that improvement was possible through steady, cooperative effort. His mind moved naturally between invention and civic responsibility, seeing them as interconnected pursuits. Public service became another form of creativity, a way to shape the world through thoughtful action. Benjamin did not seek praise, but people admired his presence, steady, wise, and quietly inspiring. By the time he reached this stage of life, Benjamin Franklin had become a central figure in Philadelphia's growth. His influence reached into homes, streets, institutions, and minds, yet he remained humble, continuing to work in his print shop, write essays, and attend meetings with the same quiet dedication he had always shown. He believed that true leadership required consistency, patience, and respect for others. These qualities guided him as he prepared for the next chapters of his life, which would lead him far beyond Philadelphia and into the heart of history itself. As Benjamin Franklin's contributions to Philadelphia blossomed, the world beyond the city was undergoing profound changes. Tensions between the American colonies and the British government were slowly rising, fueled by disputes over governance, taxes, and representation. Benjamin, though deeply committed to science and local improvements, could not ignore the shifting atmosphere. He sensed that the harmony of daily life was being tested by forces larger than any one person. Yet he approached these developments as he approached everything, with calm observation, thoughtful reflection, and a desire to understand before acting. Benjamin's writings increasingly touched on political issues, though in his signature gentle and reasoned style. He believed that public discourse should enlighten rather than inflame, encouraging citizens to think deeply about their circumstances. His essays emphasized fairness, cooperation, and the importance of wise leadership. Through his words, he sought to guide people away from anger and toward clarity. This balanced approach gained him respect among both colonists and British officials, positioning him as a calm voice in a world growing restless. As political tensions continued to rise, Benjamin was appointed Postmaster General for the American colonies, a role that expanded his influence and responsibilities. Under his leadership, the postal system became more efficient, organized, and reliable than ever before. Communication between colonies improved dramatically, strengthening trade, relationships, and the exchange of ideas. Benjamin understood that information was the lifeblood of a functioning society. By improving the postal service, he helped knit the colonies together at a time when unity was becoming increasingly important. His work also brought him into closer contact with leaders and thinkers from various regions, exposing him to diverse perspectives on the colony's relationship with Britain. He listened carefully to merchants concerned about taxes, to farmers worried about land rights, and to scholars debating political philosophy. Rather than take sides quickly, Benjamin absorbed these views with thoughtful neutrality. He believed that understanding the concerns of all people was essential before forming any position. This patience made him a trusted intermediary, someone who valued reason over rhetoric. Eventually, Benjamin was sent to London as a representative of the Pennsylvania Assembly, tasked with addressing colonial grievances and strengthening ties with Britain. The journey felt both familiar and new. Familiar because he had once traveled to London as a young man, and new because this time he went not as a worker, but as a diplomat. His calm demeanor and thoughtful intelligence made him well suited for negotiation. He understood the importance of listening, observing, and speaking with clarity. Despite the growing strain between the colonies and Britain, he hoped that reason could bridge the divide. In London, Benjamin spent years navigating complex political landscapes. He met with ministers, wrote persuasive essays, and argued for the fair treatment of the colonies. At times, he faced criticism, misunderstanding, and frustration. Yet he remained composed, guided by the same steady principles he applied to science and civic work. He believed that progress came not from force, but from persistence, patience, and respectful dialogue. Even when obstacles seemed insurmountable, he continued striving for peaceful solutions. During his time abroad, Benjamin also immersed himself in European intellectual circles. Scholars, inventors, and philosophers welcomed him warmly, admiring both his discoveries and his gentle humility. London, Paris, and other cities became extensions of his intellectual home. He attended lectures, participated in discussions, and exchanged ideas that enriched his understanding of the world. These experiences broadened his perspective, deepening his appreciation for the interconnectedness of nations and the shared human desire for knowledge and progress. Despite his efforts, political tensions eventually escalated beyond negotiation. Britain's policies grew stricter, and the colonies grew more determined to assert their rights. Benjamin felt a shift in his own position as well. He had long hoped for reconciliation, but the more he witnessed, the more he understood that the colonies' grievances were justified. The calm, thoughtful man who once sought compromise now realized that genuine fairness might not be achievable under British rule. This realization marked a profound turning point in his life. When Benjamin finally returned to America, he found the colonies on the brink of revolution. His years of diplomacy had prepared him to step into a new role, one that would require not only wisdom, but courage. He returned with a quiet resolve, ready to serve in whichever capacity his country needed. Though he had spent much of his life improving communities, advancing science, and nurturing institutions, he now faced the greatest challenge of all, helping shape a nation. Yet even in the face of conflict, he carried the same calm spirit that had guided him through every chapter. By the close of this period, Benjamin Franklin had become more than a scientist, inventor, or local leader. He had emerged as a thoughtful statesman shaped by experience and guided by a deep sense of responsibility. The world around him was changing rapidly, but he remained steady, observing, listening, and preparing for the immense tasks ahead. His next steps would take him into the heart of America's struggle for independence, where his wisdom and calm leadership would prove indispensable. When Benjamin Franklin returned from London, he stepped into an America that felt tense and uncertain. The familiar streets of Philadelphia still carried their gentle rhythm, yet beneath the surface, a growing unrest stirred. Conversations in taverns, homes, and public halls echoed with frustration about British policies, taxation, and the lack of representation. Benjamin felt this shift immediately, sensing that the calm balance of colonial life had tilted. After years spent negotiating abroad, he recognized that the moment for patient diplomacy was fading, replaced by a collective desire for decisive action. Benjamin, though naturally measured and thoughtful, understood the grievances that fueled the colony's discontent. He had witnessed firsthand the dismissive attitudes of British officials and the widening gap between the colony's needs and London's decisions. Still, he approached the unfolding conflict with caution, believing that wisdom must guide any significant change. He listened closely to leaders, merchants, farmers, and ordinary citizens, absorbing their concerns as he always had. Quietly, respectfully, and with the desire to understand every angle. Through their words, he sensed the rising tide of unity that would soon become the foundation of a nation. His return placed him quickly at the heart of revolutionary discussions. As a respected thinker, writer, and diplomat, Benjamin was invited to join committees, assemblies, and gatherings where the future of the colonies was debated. These meetings were often long and intense, yet he brought with him a calm presence that helped steady those around him. He spoke when necessary, choosing his words with care, ensuring they carried reason rather than emotion. In moments of disagreement, he acted as a mediator, reminding others that cooperation was essential for progress. Benjamin's belief in unity became one of his guiding principles during this turbulent time. He understood that the colonies, diverse in culture and divided by geography, could not confront Britain unless they stood together. To encourage cooperation, he used his writing skills to craft persuasive essays and pamphlets that appealed to shared values. His words were simple, sincere, and grounded in practicality, reminding colonists of their common identity and common challenges. These writings helped soften divides, slowly weaving the colonies into a more cohesive whole. In 1775, as tensions escalated into open conflict, Benjamin was appointed to the Second Continental Congress, a gathering of leaders tasked with determining the colony's response to Britain's actions. He entered the chambers with quiet resolve, fully aware of the weight of the decisions that lay ahead. The room was filled with strong personalities, fiery speakers, cautious negotiators, and men grappling with the fear of war. Benjamin's calm demeanor offered balance, grounding the discussions in patience and thoughtfulness. He recognized that history was shifting beneath their feet and that every action needed careful consideration. During these debates, Benjamin supported the formation of a unified colonial military and the appointment of George Washington as its commander. He admired Washington's steady character and believed his leadership would inspire confidence during uncertain times. Benjamin knew that wars were not won by passion alone, but by discipline, strategy, and clear direction. His support for Washington reflected his broader understanding that great tasks required individuals who could remain composed under pressure. This decision would prove critical in the years ahead. As conflict intensified, the question of independence emerged with increasing urgency. Many were hesitant, fearful of abandoning ties to Britain, and facing the unknown challenges of self-governance. Benjamin acknowledged these fears, but also understood the necessity of change. He believed that independence offered not only political freedom, but the opportunity to build a society grounded in fairness, wisdom, and shared values. When the time came to debate the drafting of a declaration, Benjamin stepped forward with clarity. He joined John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston on the committee that would shape the colony's boldest statement. Though Thomas Jefferson ultimately drafted the primary text, Benjamin played an important role in refining and strengthening the document. His edits softened harsh phrases, clarified intentions, and ensured the declaration carried both conviction and dignity. He approached the task with the same thoughtful attention he applied to his inventions, understanding that words could shape the hearts of nations. The final version reflected not only Jefferson's brilliance, but Benjamin's steady hand, guiding the tone toward unity rather than bitterness. It was a document designed not to inflame, but to inspire. When the Declaration of Independence was finally presented and adopted on July 4, 1776, Benjamin felt a mix of emotions: pride for the courage it represented, resolve for the challenges that lay ahead, and a gentle solemnity, knowing that this moment marked the beginning of a difficult but necessary journey. He famously wrote that we must all hang together, a reminder that unity was the colony's greatest strength. Beneath his calm exterior, he understood the stakes more clearly than most. Independence would demand sacrifice, discipline, and endurance. Even after the signing, Benjamin continued contributing to the cause with quiet determination. He served on committees, offered guidance to military leaders, and supported efforts to gather supplies and resources. But soon, he would be called to serve in a role that required all the wisdom he had accumulated throughout his life. Diplomatic envoy to France. The young nation desperately needed allies, and Benjamin's intelligence, humility, and ability to connect with people made him the ideal representative. Accepting the assignment, he prepared once more to cross the ocean, this time carrying the hopes of an entire country. As he embarked on this journey, Benjamin understood the magnitude of the responsibility he carried. The colony's success depended in part on his ability to persuade a powerful nation to support their cause. Yet he did not let anxiety cloud his mind. Instead, he approached the task with steady calm, trusting in patience, clarity, and diplomacy. His years of public service, scientific inquiry, and personal discipline had prepared him for this moment. Standing on the deck of the ship as it sailed toward France, he let the wind steady his thoughts, ready to step into the next chapter with quiet resolve. Benjamin Franklin's arrival in France marked the beginning of one of the most significant chapters of his life. The French court was vibrant, elegant, and full of complex social expectations, a world far removed from the practical streets of Philadelphia. Yet Benjamin stepped into this environment with natural ease. His gentle humor, warm presence, and calm intelligence made him immediately memorable. Instead of attempting to fit in through extravagance, he impressed people by simply being himself, thoughtful, sincere, and quietly wise. His reputation had already reached Europe through his scientific achievements, particularly his work with electricity. Scholars and aristocrats admired him, viewing him as a symbol of enlightenment and curiosity. This admiration opened doors that might otherwise have remained closed. Benjamin attended salons, dinners, and gatherings where he built friendships with influential thinkers and leaders. Unlike those who sought attention, he listened more than he spoke, offering insights only when they added clarity. His humility became one of his greatest diplomatic tools. Benjamin's primary mission in France was to secure support for the American cause. He needed France to provide financial assistance, military aid, and diplomatic recognition of the colony's independence. Such a task required not only skill, but patience, as France was cautious about entering a conflict with Britain. Benjamin approached these negotiations strategically, understanding that trust must be built slowly. He used relationships, conversations, and shared intellectual interests to form genuine connections. Each step he took was deliberate, grounded in his belief that diplomacy was an art of calm persuasion rather than forceful argument. One of the most remarkable aspects of Benjamin's diplomacy was his ability to connect with people at every level of society. He was as comfortable speaking with philosophers as he was with common citizens. His charm lay not in grandeur, but in authenticity. Even his simple clothing, often plain and practical compared to the lavish attire of the French court, became a symbol of the American spirit. People admired his sincerity, seeing in him a reflection of the values the colonies sought to protect: freedom, humility, and thoughtful independence. During his time in France, Benjamin formed a close relationship with the Marquis de Lafayette, a young nobleman deeply inspired by the American struggle for liberty. Lafayette's passion and resources would later become invaluable to the Revolution. Benjamin's ability to inspire allies like Lafayette demonstrated the quiet power of his diplomacy. He did not demand support, he earned it through reason, kindness, and genuine respect. His presence helped shape French perception of America, turning curiosity into enthusiasm and sympathy into commitment. The turning point came after the American victory at the Battle of Saratoga, a decisive moment that convinced France the colonies had a real chance of success. With this evidence, Benjamin and his fellow commissioners negotiated a formal alliance between France and the United States. The Treaty of Alliance, signed in 1778, secured French military and naval assistance, a crucial factor in the eventual American victory. Benjamin accepted the news with quiet relief, knowing how vital this support would be. Behind the celebration remained his steady understanding that much work still lay ahead. Even after securing the alliance, Benjamin continued to serve with tireless dedication. He managed finances, coordinated shipments of supplies, and oversaw communication between France and America. His workload was immense, often demanding long hours and constant attention. Yet he remained composed, guided by the same patient mindset that had carried him through scientific experiments and community projects. He understood that the success of a nation required persistence, and he offered his energy without complaint. Living in France also gave Benjamin time for personal reflection. In quieter moments, he wrote letters, essays, and philosophical musings, maintaining his lifelong habit of thoughtful expression. These writings reveal a man who, despite the pressures of war and diplomacy, retained his gentle humor and optimistic spirit. He observed the world around him with the eyes of both a scientist and a philosopher, appreciating beauty and wisdom in every encounter. Even as he shaped the future of a nation, he continued nurturing his inner life, the same calm, curious mind he had carried since childhood. Years passed before Benjamin's work in France came to an end. By the time he returned home, the United States had won its independence, thanks in part to the alliances he helped secure. He stepped back onto American soil, greeted as a hero, though he accepted the praise with humility. He believed that victory was the result of collective effort, from the soldiers in the field to the diplomats abroad to the citizens who persevered through hardship. His role, he felt, was simply one part of a greater whole. When Benjamin Franklin returned to America after his long diplomatic service in France, he found a country transformed. The colonies he had once known, separate, uncertain, and often divided, were now bound together by the hard-won independence he had helped secure. Yet beneath the celebration lay an unmistakable truth. The new nation faced enormous challenges. There were debts to repay, treaties to uphold, and a government to structure from the ground up. Benjamin stepped into this environment with quiet resolve, ready to contribute whatever wisdom he could. Despite his age and declining health, Benjamin accepted a position in the Continental Congress, where leaders gathered to shape the nation's political foundation. His years abroad had refined his diplomatic skills, giving him a broader understanding of governance and international relations. He approached each meeting with calm attentiveness, listening carefully to the concerns of others before offering his perspective. His colleagues respected his presence, knowing that his words carried both experience and thoughtful restraint. Even when debates grew tense, Benjamin's gentle voice brought a sense of balance to the room. One of the Congress's most pressing tasks was addressing the weaknesses of the existing Articles of Confederation. The loose structure worked poorly, causing economic instability and political confusion. Some leaders feared giving the central government too much power, while others believed stronger unity was essential for survival. Benjamin understood these concerns intimately. He had seen how fragile alliances could be, and he recognized that, without careful planning, the young nation might fracture. He did not force his views. Instead, he offered steady guidance, encouraging compromise, and reminding his colleagues of their shared responsibility. During this time, Benjamin also devoted himself to improving relations with Native American nations. He believed that peace and mutual respect were essential, and he urged leaders to honor treaties and negotiate fairly. His writings emphasized empathy, understanding, and patience, values that had guided him throughout his life. He saw diplomacy not merely as a political tool, but as an extension of moral character. In moments of conflict, he encouraged thoughtful dialogue, hoping that calm discussion could prevent unnecessary suffering. Though his influence was limited, his voice carried a gentle insistence on justice. Benjamin's return to Philadelphia also rekindled his involvement in local affairs. Even as he worked on national issues, he continued supporting libraries, schools, and civic organizations. He believed that the strength of the nation rested not only on government, but on the character of its communities. The habits of learning, cooperation, and service that he had nurtured for decades remained vital to him. He moved through the city with quiet familiarity, greeted warmly by old friends, neighbors, and admirers. To them, he was not just a statesman, but a guiding presence, steady, thoughtful, and deeply human. As the years passed, Benjamin became increasingly aware that the Articles of Confederation could not sustain the country. Economic difficulties intensified, states quarreled, and national unity weakened. Many leaders called for a convention to revise the government's structure. Despite his age of over 80 years, Benjamin agreed to serve as a delegate at what would become the Constitutional Convention of 1787. He recognized that this moment required wisdom, patience, and a steady hand, qualities he had cultivated throughout his life. With quiet determination, he prepared to contribute once more. When the convention began, Benjamin entered the hall with the assistance of a cane, and on difficult days, in a special chair designed for his comfort. Though physically weakened, his mind remained sharp, and his presence commanded respect. The room brimmed with debate as delegates argued passionately over representation, state sovereignty, and the structure of the new government. Benjamin listened carefully to these heated discussions, understanding that the stakes were immense. He saw beyond the disagreements, recognizing that their shared goal, a stable, lasting nation, mattered far more than any individual position. Throughout the convention, Benjamin played a unique role as a voice of moderation. He rarely gave lengthy speeches, but when he did speak, the room grew quiet. His words were gentle but firm, encouraging delegates to consider the long-term well-being of the country. He reminded them that compromise was not weakness but wisdom, the kind necessary for a diverse nation to thrive. His famous appeal for unity, delivered during a moment of deep division, helped ease tensions and restore cooperation. His calm presence served as a steady anchor in a sea of strong opinions. Benjamin supported the idea of a strong central government balanced by checks and safeguards. He understood that no system would be perfect, but he believed deeply in the importance of establishing a structure that could grow and adapt over time. When the final Constitution was ready, he expressed his wholehearted approval despite recognizing its imperfections. In a memorable statement, he explained that he accepted the document because he expected no better and because he believed it to be the best possible under the circumstances. His humility guided others to sign, helping secure the foundation of the United States government. The day the Constitution was completed, Benjamin looked toward Washington's rising sun symbol carved onto the president's chair, a simple image that inspired a profound thought. He shared with the delegates that he had often wondered whether the carving represented a rising sun or a setting one. But now, seeing their accomplishment, he believed with confidence that it was a rising sun. This quiet reflection captured the hopeful spirit of the moment, affirming his belief that the nation's future held promise. In the years following the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin continued contributing to public life despite growing physical limitations. His body weakened, but his mind remained vibrant, filled with ideas and questions that carried the same curiosity he had nurtured since childhood. He spent many days writing, reflecting on his experiences, and offering guidance to the leaders shaping the new nation. Visitors came often, politicians seeking advice, scientists hoping for discussion, and friends wishing to share quiet conversation. Benjamin welcomed them all with gentle warmth. One of his most passionate causes during these later years was the abolition of slavery. Although he had once accepted the institution, his views had evolved through deep reflection and exposure to diverse perspectives. He recognized slavery as incompatible with the moral principles upon which the nation had been founded. As president of the Pennsylvania Society for the Abolition of Slavery, he wrote petitions urging Congress to end the practice, arguing with calm conviction for human dignity and justice. Though progress would be slow and uneven, his voice helped plant seeds of change that would grow long after his time. Benjamin also devoted himself to recording the story of his life. His autobiography, written in several stages, offered insight into his personal philosophy, his struggles, and his lifelong commitment to self-improvement. He described his youth, his mistakes, his successes, and the virtues he had tried to cultivate. His tone throughout was humble and reflective, as though he were writing not to impress, but to guide others toward thoughtful living. The autobiography became one of his most enduring contributions, a testament to the quiet power of discipline and curiosity. During quiet evenings, Benjamin often reflected on the journey that had carried him from a modest childhood in Boston to the halls of diplomacy and nation-building. He understood that his successes were shaped not by extraordinary circumstances, but by steady effort, open-mindedness, and the willingness to learn from every experience. His reflections were gentle, tinged with gratitude rather than pride. He believed that a meaningful life was not measured by fame, but by the good one left behind. This belief brought him peace as he entered the final stage of his life. Even as his health declined, Benjamin remained surrounded by family, friends, and admirers. His home in Philadelphia became a place of quiet comfort, where conversations flowed with sincerity and warmth. He cherished these moments, appreciating the presence of those who cared for him. He continued offering advice when asked, though always with the humility that had shaped him for decades. In his final years, he embodied the virtues he had spent his life cultivating: patience, moderation, sincerity, and compassion. Benjamin Franklin passed away on April 17, 1790, at the age of 84. News of his death spread quickly, bringing sorrow to people across the young nation and beyond. Thousands attended his funeral, a testament to the profound impact he had made on countless lives. Yet the atmosphere was not heavy with despair. Instead, it carried a quiet reverence, as though people understood that his legacy would continue guiding them. They honored him not only as a statesman or inventor, but as a man whose kindness, curiosity, and wisdom had shaped the character of a nation. In the years following his death, Benjamin's contributions continued to resonate. His inventions improved daily life, his writings inspired reflection, and his diplomatic efforts secured the foundation of American independence. The institutions he helped build, libraries, universities, civic organizations, carried forward his belief in education, cooperation, and public service. His influence became woven into the fabric of American identity, a constant reminder that quiet determination can lead to extraordinary achievements. But perhaps Benjamin's greatest legacy was his philosophy of self-improvement. He believed that wisdom grew through experience, humility, and the willingness to reflect on one's faults. He encouraged people to cultivate virtues not for recognition, but for inner peace. His life demonstrated that greatness does not require perfection, only intention, effort, and a heart open to learning. This gentle message continues to echo through generations, offering comfort and inspiration to all who read his words. As we close this chapter, we return to the quiet image of Benjamin Franklin, a man seated at a wooden desk, illuminated by the soft glow of a candle. Papers rest beneath his hand, the ink still fresh, the room filled with a peaceful stillness. He pauses, thinking, reflecting, and listening to the world with the same sensitivity he carried throughout his life. His story reminds us that wisdom is not loud, invention is not rushed, and leadership is not harsh. It is calm, steady, and rooted in the simple desire to understand and improve. Benjamin Franklin's journey, from humble beginnings to lasting legacy, unfolds like a gentle lesson in living. His life was a lantern, casting light not only on science and politics, but on the inner path each person walks. And though centuries have passed, his glow remains, steady and warm, guiding us toward knowledge, kindness, and thoughtful purpose. Long after Benjamin Franklin's passing, the ideas he nurtured continued to take root in the minds of those who studied his writings and followed his example. His life had been filled with curiosity, discipline, and a sincere desire to improve the world around him. Yet his legacy reached far beyond inventions and institutions. It lived in the quiet philosophy he carried throughout his life, a belief that wisdom grew not from privilege, but from observation, effort, and reflection. As the young nation he helped found took shape, this philosophy began to influence generations of thinkers, educators, and leaders. Benjamin's autobiography became one of the most widely read and admired works of the early United States. Readers were drawn to its clarity, humility, and warmth. Unlike many figures of his stature, he did not present himself as flawless or destined for greatness. Instead, he shared his failures openly, describing them as essential steps in the journey toward self-improvement. This honesty made his story relatable to people from all walks of life. They saw in him a model of resilience, someone who had built his life not through force, but through steady, thoughtful growth. One of the most enduring elements of his philosophy was his belief in practical education. He understood that knowledge should serve people in their daily lives, helping them make better decisions and contribute more effectively to their communities. This belief inspired the creation of universities, libraries, and civic organizations across the nation. Educators began adopting his emphasis on critical thinking, scientific inquiry, and moral development. His approach influenced the structure of American schooling, blending practical skills with intellectual exploration in ways that still shape classrooms today. Benjamin's embrace of scientific curiosity also left a profound imprint on future generations. His experiments with electricity sparked the imagination of countless young scientists, encouraging them to observe nature closely and question assumptions. His method was simple but powerful. Start with curiosity, pursue knowledge carefully, and share discoveries freely. This openness helped lay the foundation for American innovation. Scientists admired his willingness to challenge accepted ideas while remaining humble in the face of new evidence. His work illustrated that even complex truths become approachable when explored with patience and clarity. His emphasis on civic responsibility continued to influence communities long after his lifetime. The organizations he founded, fire companies, hospitals, philosophical societies, and civic groups, inspired similar institutions across the nation. These groups emphasized cooperation, volunteerism, and shared purpose. They showed that meaningful change often began not with government decrees, but with individuals coming together in thoughtful action. This spirit of collective responsibility became a defining characteristic of American society, reflecting Benjamin's belief that a strong nation was built on the strength of its people. Even his gentle humor found a lasting place in American culture. Benjamin had always used wit to soften difficult conversations, illuminate truths, and inspire reflection. His sayings, and often simple, memorable, and full of wisdom, became part of everyday language. A penny saved is a penny earned. Well done is better than well said, and an investment in knowledge pays the best interest carried his philosophy to millions. These maxims distilled complex ideas into warm, accessible guidance, offering comfort and clarity for generations navigating the challenges of life. As decades passed, scholars began studying Benjamin not only as a statesman or inventor, but as a philosopher of the everyday. They recognized that his virtues, moderation, industry, sincerity, humility, were not abstract ideals, but practical tools for living well. His method of self-reflection encouraged people to pause, consider their actions, and strive for steady improvement. This practice resonated deeply in a country built on individual initiative. People found in Benjamin a companion on the journey toward personal growth, someone whose gentle wisdom could guide them through uncertainty. His legacy also extended into the realms of diplomacy and leadership. Future statesmen studied his approach to negotiation, calm, patient, and grounded in respect. They learned how he had built alliances not through force, but through sincerity and understanding. His example demonstrated that humility was not a weakness, but a strength that earned trust even in moments of great tension. As America engaged with the wider world, leaders drew inspiration from Benjamin's ability to bridge cultures and foster cooperation through quiet intelligence. Benjamin's contributions to the shaping of the Constitution continued to influence legal scholars and political thinkers. His emphasis on balance, compromise, and adaptability helped establish a system that could evolve with the nation. Though he did not claim authorship of any single principle, his spirit infused many of the discussions that shaped the document. Generations of Americans would later study his role, recognizing the importance of wisdom and patience in moments of great transformation. His voice, steady and measured, echoed through the years as a reminder of the value of thoughtful deliberation. In all these ways, Benjamin Franklin's intellectual legacy remained alive, woven into the fabric of a growing nation. His life offered a model for how curiosity, humility, and service could shape not only one man's journey, but the destiny of a people. As each generation rediscovered his writings and ideas, they found guidance in his gentle approach to life. The lantern he carried lit in quiet workshops, busy printing rooms, and candlelit studies, continued to illuminate the path for those seeking wisdom. His influence grew not through force, but through the steady, comforting warmth of a mind committed to learning. As the United States matured, Benjamin Franklin's influence subtly shaped its cultural identity. His values, curiosity, thrift, industry, cooperation, and humility, blended with the aspirations of a young nation determined to define itself. People looked to his life as a roadmap, finding reassurance in his calm resilience. His example demonstrated that greatness was not about grandeur, but about living with intention. Many Americans adopted his habits of reflection and improvement, seeing them as practical tools for navigating a world filled with possibilities and challenges. His belief in community strengthened the nation during times of hardship. When natural disasters struck, when diseases spread, or when economic difficulties arose, communities came together in ways that echoed Benjamin's early civic efforts. They formed volunteer groups, shared resources, and worked collectively to restore stability. This spirit of cooperation, so deeply embedded in his approach to life, became a defining feature of American society. People understood that common challenges required shared responsibility and that peaceful collaboration often accomplished more than individual effort alone. Benjamin's emphasis on free expression and the circulation of ideas influenced the development of American journalism. Newspapers and pamphlets became vital tools for education and communication, mirroring the role the Pennsylvania Gazette had once played. Writers adopted his clear, sincere style, aiming to inform rather than incite. This approach shaped early standards for public discourse, reinforcing the idea that truth and clarity formed the foundation of a healthy society. The belief that information should be accessible to all helped nurture an informed citizenry capable of thoughtful decision-making. His approach to science also played a role in shaping the country's progress. America developed a tradition of innovation rooted in curiosity, practicality, and collaboration. Scientists and inventors admired Benjamin not only for his discoveries but for his mindset. They saw in him a model for how to approach the unknown with both courage and humility. His refusal to patent inventions inspired a culture of shared knowledge, encouraging people to contribute discoveries for the common good. This spirit would eventually lead to breakthroughs in technology, medicine, and industry. In education, Benjamin's influence was equally strong. His vision for accessible learning shaped early schools, colleges, and libraries. Communities prioritized reading, discussion, and critical thinking, seeing these skills as essential to a free society. Teachers embraced his idea that education should prepare students for the real world, emphasizing both knowledge and character. Generations of students benefited from this balanced approach, carrying forward his belief that the pursuit of wisdom was a lifelong journey. The institutions he helped establish served as living reminders of his commitment to learning. Benjamin's quiet humor also became part of the nation's cultural voice. His sayings, often simple yet profound, echoed in households across America. They appeared in newspapers, letters, speeches, and conversations, offering timeless guidance wrapped in gentle wit. These maxims became part of everyday speech, reflecting the nation's practical optimism. People repeated his words during moments of decision, hardship, or celebration, finding comfort in their steady wisdom. His humor reminded them not to take life too seriously, even when facing great challenges. As American art and literature evolved, many creators found inspiration in Benjamin's life. They admired his journey from humble beginnings to remarkable achievement, seeing in it the quintessential story of self-made success. Writers used his experiences to explore themes of identity, ambition, and resilience. Artists portrayed him as a symbol of wisdom and enlightenment. His life became a canvas upon which the nation painted its ideals, reinforcing the belief that perseverance and curiosity could shape the course of history. His influence even extended into the emerging field of public health. Benjamin had long advocated for cleaner streets, better sanitation, and organized care for the sick. These early efforts inspired later reforms that improved urban living conditions. Communities adopted practices that reflected his emphasis on prevention, preparedness, and compassion. Through these developments, his belief in the interconnectedness of society continued to guide efforts toward improving collective well-being. In government, Benjamin's legacy endured through the principles he championed: moderation, compromise, and reasoned debate. Leaders turned to his writings and actions for guidance during moments of political tension. His belief that differences could be resolved through calm discussion offered a model for navigating conflict. Even when disagreements grew intense, his example encouraged patience and mutual respect. His influence helped shape a political culture that valued deliberation over division. A culture that, though often tested, remained rooted in his steady wisdom. Over time, Benjamin Franklin became more than a historical figure. He became a symbol, not of perfection, but of possibility. His life reminded Americans that greatness emerged from curiosity, humility, and service. His story offered a gentle reassurance that each person had the capacity to grow, to improve, and to contribute meaningfully to the world. He represented a quiet kind of heroism, one rooted not in dramatic triumphs, but in persistent effort and thoughtful intention. As his ideas continued to travel through generations, they shaped not only the institutions and culture of America, but also its spirit. People found in his legacy a source of comfort, a reminder that wisdom could be cultivated, that challenges could be met with calm resilience, and that a meaningful life could be built through steady, mindful choices. His influence, subtle yet profound, flowed through the nation like a quiet current, guiding it gently toward learning, compassion, and thoughtful progress. Benjamin Franklin's lantern, lit centuries ago, still burns. Its light continues to soften the darkness, offering warmth to anyone seeking understanding. Through this soft glow, his legacy whispers a timeless message that the pursuit of knowledge, kindness, and self-improvement is a journey without end, one that leads not only to personal fulfillment, but to the betterment of the world. As the United States continued to grow, Benjamin Franklin's ideas found new life in the hands of those who came after him. His influence did not fade with time. Instead, it settled softly into the foundation of the country, shaping its values and aspirations. People read his writings, repeated his sayings, and taught his lessons to children who had never known the world before independence. His presence lingered in classrooms, workshops, and public halls, carried quietly through the rhythms of daily life. The lantern he had lit, with curiosity, kindness, and wisdom, continued to illuminate the paths of countless others. Young Americans, inspired by his story, embraced the belief that self-improvement was both possible and necessary. They admired the way he had risen from humble beginnings, shaping his life through steady practice and thoughtful discipline. His example taught them that greatness did not require wealth or inheritance, only determination and a willingness to learn. People adopted his habits of reflection, keeping journals, creating personal goals, and striving to cultivate the virtues he had practiced so earnestly. In this way, his philosophy became a quiet companion to those seeking direction. Educators, too, found inspiration in Benjamin's approach to learning. Schools incorporated his ideas about practical education, emphasizing science, problem-solving, and the importance of moral character. Teachers encourage students to ask questions, explore new subjects, and experiment with concepts that spark their curiosity. Libraries expanded across the nation, drawing from the model Benjamin had established in Philadelphia. These libraries became centers for community learning, echoing his belief that knowledge should be shared freely and generously. Through these institutions, his spirit nurtured the minds of generations. Inventors and scientists felt a special connection to Benjamin's legacy. They saw in him a kindred spirit, someone who approached the natural world with wonder and patience. His work with electricity inspired them to explore forces and phenomena that had once seemed mysterious. They admired his willingness to question assumptions and his generosity in sharing discoveries with others. His humility in the face of the unknown served as a reminder that true science was not about claiming mastery, but about deepening understanding. With each experiment conducted in quiet laboratories, his influence flowed gently forward. Communities across America adopted the spirit of cooperation Benjamin had embodied. Volunteer groups, public health initiatives, and civic organizations formed in towns both large and small. People came together to address local needs, from building schools to organizing fire brigades to supporting neighbors in times of hardship. This collaborative energy reflected Benjamin's belief that ordinary citizens acting together could improve the world around them. His model of community service became a cornerstone of American life, strengthening bonds and creating a sense of shared purpose. Even the political culture of the young nation bore the imprint of Benjamin Franklin's gentle wisdom. Leaders invoked his name during debates, reminding one another of the importance of compromise and thoughtful governance. His calm approach to conflict encouraged patience and moderation, even when disagreements ran deep. People admired his ability to balance personal beliefs with a commitment to the common good, seeing in him a model for responsible leadership. His lessons, woven into the fabric of the Constitution, helped shape a government built on reason and collective responsibility. Art and literature, too, carried forward his legacy. Writers used Benjamin's life as a symbol of resilience, creativity, and thoughtful ambition. Painters depicted him in warm light, emphasizing his calm expression and thoughtful gaze. Poets referenced his sayings, finding comfort in their gentle wisdom. His story became a source of inspiration, not only for Americans but for people around the world who sought hope in the possibility of self-made success. Through artistic expression, his life continued to touch hearts long after he was gone. As decades passed, Benjamin Franklin's influence remained steady, evolving with the nation but never fading. His ideas adapted to changing times, offering guidance through periods of prosperity and hardship alike. People returned to his writings during moments of uncertainty, finding reassurance in their clarity and kindness. They saw in him not a distant historical figure, but a familiar presence, a friend offering quiet advice from across the centuries. His lantern, still glowing softly, illuminated their way forward. This passing of wisdom from one generation to the next created a sense of continuity, a reminder that the values Benjamin had cherished were as relevant in the future as they had been in the past. His legacy became not just a story of one man's achievements, but a living thread woven through the nation's identity. It offered comfort, direction, and gentle encouragement to all who sought to understand themselves and the world. The lantern he carried remained steady, its light expanding with each new mind it touched. As the United States entered new eras of growth and change, Benjamin Franklin's gentle philosophy continued to echo through its evolving culture. His ideas became touchstones for people navigating unfamiliar challenges, offering steady guidance when the world felt uncertain. Even as technology advanced and cities expanded, the core principles he had lived by retained their quiet power. Moderation, humility, curiosity, and compassion, these values anchored the nation, reminding people of the importance of thoughtful living. His influence, though subtle, remained deeply rooted. In moments of national conflict, leaders turned to Benjamin's approach to reconciliation. They admired his ability to bring people together, to listen with patience, and to find common ground even in the most difficult discussions. His example encouraged them to approach disagreements with calm clarity rather than anger. Whether addressing political divides, social unrest, or international disputes, they found solace in the steady wisdom he had demonstrated throughout his life. His belief in reasoned dialogue offered a path forward when emotions ran high. During times of rapid technological change, scientists and inventors remembered Benjamin's willingness to explore the unknown. They saw him as a pioneer not only of electricity, but of the spirit of innovation itself. His method of careful observation and open curiosity guided them as they developed new inventions that reshaped the world. They admired his humility, recognizing that progress required not only ambition, but patience. His legacy encouraged them to approach discovery not with haste, but with thoughtful intention, ensuring that their work served the greater good. As the nation faced social challenges, Benjamin's emphasis on education and moral development gained renewed importance. Communities invested in schools that nurtured both intellect and character, reflecting his belief that knowledge should shape responsible citizens. Teachers referenced his writings, sharing his principles with students who sought to find their place in a complex world. Schools adopted practical teaching methods rooted in real-world application, mirroring his vision of learning as a bridge between thought and action. In this way, his influence continued to guide the nation's educational philosophy. Benjamin's encouragement of civic involvement also found new strength as America grew more diverse. People from different backgrounds learned the importance of community engagement, echoing the spirit of the Shunto he had founded centuries earlier. Neighborhood groups collaborated on local improvements, volunteer organizations supported the vulnerable, and public discussions shaped the direction of towns and cities. This cooperative spirit, so central to Benjamin's worldview, became a defining feature of American life. It illustrated his belief that each person, through small acts of service, could help shape a better society. Even as the world modernized, Benjamin's simple sayings endured. His proverbs, collected in Poor Richard's Almanac, continued to offer guidance through everyday challenges. People repeated them to their children, their co-workers, and even to themselves during moments of doubt. These sayings, warm and practical, served as gentle reminders of values such as patience, integrity, and moderation. Their enduring popularity reflected the timelessness of his insights and their ability to resonate across cultures and generations. In literature, Benjamin remained a beloved figure. Writers explored his life not merely as history, but as a source of personal inspiration. They admired his resilience, his curiosity, and his quiet self-confidence. His story, the tale of a young boy who rose through determination and thoughtful effort, became a symbol of what was possible. Through novels, essays, and histories, his life reached audiences far beyond those who had read his original works. His character became a reminder that wisdom often comes from humility, and that greatness grows from steady, mindful choices. American diplomacy also carried forward his influence. Negotiators studied his approach, learning how he balanced strength with gentleness and clarity with empathy. His work in France became a model for building trust across cultural boundaries. Diplomats admired how he had formed alliances not by forceful argument, but by genuine connection. His example illustrated that respect and sincerity were often more powerful than authority. Through this lens, his legacy shaped the nation's relationships with the world. Over time, Benjamin's philosophy became interwoven with the broader American identity. It encouraged people to seek understanding, to value freedom, and to approach challenges with thoughtfulness. His belief that every individual could improve themselves resonated deeply with a culture built on opportunity. His legacy reminded people that progress, whether personal or societal, required patience, cooperation, and a willingness to reflect. This gentle message offered comfort and reassurance during moments of uncertainty. As the nation journeyed forward, Benjamin Franklin's lantern continued to shine with warm, steady light. Its glow softened the path for all who followed, offering wisdom drawn from a lifetime of curiosity and compassion. The lantern symbolized more than knowledge. It symbolized the resilience of a spirit committed to understanding and improving the world. Through its gentle illumination, his legacy lived on, guiding people toward kindness, clarity, and thoughtful purpose, a quiet beacon glowing across generations. As the United States matured through its early decades, the echoes of Benjamin Franklin's influence continued to resonate across the nation. The people who had built their lives on his teachings carried his wisdom into the fabric of American identity. Communities that once relied solely on survival began thinking more deeply about progress, knowledge, and civic responsibility. In this growing nation, Benjamin's ideas served as a quiet compass, helping citizens navigate a landscape filled with both promise and uncertainty. The values he cherished, curiosity, cooperation, and humility, found new expression in the evolving character of the country. Young Americans learned about Benjamin Franklin almost as a family would learn about a beloved ancestor. His story was shared in classrooms, homes, and public gatherings, offering inspiration to those seeking purpose. Children admired his inventiveness and ambition, while adults appreciated his patience and practicality. His life demonstrated that one could pursue dreams through steady effort rather than sudden leaps. For a nation discovering its potential, Benjamin's example offered reassurance. Progress came not through chaos, but through thoughtful, deliberate steps. The nation's leaders also turned to Benjamin's principles as they faced the challenges of governing a growing republic. They read his speeches, studied his writings, and reflected on the wisdom he had shared during the Constitutional Convention. His message of unity remained especially important. As political parties emerged and ideological tensions rose, his reminder that compromise was a virtue carried meaningful weight. Leaders looked to his calm, measured approach as a model for navigating disagreements with grace and clarity. His presence lingered in their hearts, urging them toward thoughtful decision-making. Across the expanding landscape, communities embraced Benjamin's emphasis on self-improvement. Small towns organized reading circles, discussion groups, and civic meetings where neighbors gathered to exchange ideas. These gatherings mirrored the spirit of the junto, which had once brought Benjamin and his friends together to explore knowledge and improve their community. Now, this tradition spread widely, helping shape a culture of open dialogue and shared learning. People discovered that by working together they could strengthen both themselves and the places they called home. As the nation developed, science and technology advanced rapidly, guided by the principles Benjamin had embodied. His approach, curious yet disciplined, inventive yet humble, became a foundation for American innovation. Scientists built upon his discoveries, exploring fields he had only glimpsed. Inventors applied his methodical mindset to the challenges of everyday life, creating tools and systems that transformed society. His belief that knowledge should serve humanity inspired researchers to pursue breakthroughs that improved public health, communication, and industry. His spirit influenced not just the direction of science, but the character of those who practiced it. Benjamin's influence also emerged in the nation's literary and artistic expressions. Writers admired his clarity and sincerity, incorporating his style into essays, novels, and articles. Artists painted him as a symbol of wisdom, often portraying him in warm light to reflect his gentle spirit. His sayings appeared in poetry and speeches woven into the cultural language. People found comfort in his words, which offered calm guidance in times of change. His image became more than a representation of a historical figure. It became a beacon of thoughtful living. With each decade, new generations reinterpreted Benjamin's teachings to suit their era. They applied his principles to discussions about industry, education, community, and ethics. His message of moderation helped guide debates about expanding freedoms and responsibilities. His belief in civic engagement encouraged citizens to participate actively in building their society. Through these evolving interpretations, his wisdom remained alive, adaptable, and relevant. His lantern, glowing steadily throughout the centuries, illuminated questions that past generations had never faced. Yet the answers often carried echoes of his timeless insights. In moments of national struggle, people found solace in Benjamin's example. His resilience through personal challenges, political conflicts, and scientific setbacks reminded them that perseverance was a path forward. Whether confronting economic downturns, social upheaval, or shifting global landscapes, Americans drew strength from the calm determination he had demonstrated. His life offered a gentle reminder that progress was possible even in uncertainty, as long as one remained open-minded and committed to improvement. Benjamin Franklin's legacy became intertwined with the nation's identity. His ideals, grounded in cooperation, curiosity, and compassion, shaped the core of what it meant to be American. People understood that his influence was not confined to the past. It was a living presence, guiding them toward a future built on thoughtful action and shared purpose. As the nation looked ahead, his spirit continued to shine like a steady lantern in the night, offering direction with quiet, enduring grace. As America entered the industrial age, Benjamin Franklin's influence found new relevance in a rapidly transforming world. Machines reshaped industries, cities expanded, and innovations emerged at a speed unimaginable in Benjamin's time. Yet even amid this surge of progress, people still turned to his teachings for grounding. His emphasis on humility and thoughtful inquiry offered balance to an era filled with ambition and uncertainty. His philosophy reminded the nation that progress was most meaningful when guided by wisdom and compassion. Educators adapted Benjamin's principles to meet the needs of modern students. Schools began incorporating scientific experimentation, problem-solving exercises, and discussions about ethics, tools that helped students approach a complex world with clarity and confidence. Teachers encouraged curiosity, echoing Benjamin's belief that learning should be an active, joyful pursuit. Libraries expanded further, becoming vibrant centers for community engagement. In these quiet spaces, readers discovered Benjamin's works alongside new ideas, connecting past wisdom with contemporary challenges. American inventors found inspiration in Benjamin's methodical approach to discovery. They saw him as a pioneer of practical innovation, someone who sought solutions that improved everyday life. Inventors like Samuel Morse, Thomas Edison, and the Wright brothers admired his ability to blend creativity with disciplined experimentation. They continued his tradition of exploring the unknown with patience and humility. Benjamin's influence helped shape a culture where breakthroughs were not merely celebrated for their brilliance, but valued for their service to humanity. In the realm of civic engagement, Benjamin's ideals continued to flourish. Communities organized volunteer fire departments, literacy programs, and public health initiatives, reflecting his belief that ordinary citizens could elevate the collective good. During times of crisis, whether natural disasters, economic hardship, or social unrest, this spirit of cooperation became a powerful force. People reached across divides to help one another, echoing the sense of shared responsibility Benjamin had cultivated centuries earlier. His message that service was both a privilege and a duty remained deeply rooted in the nation's conscience. Benjamin's role as a diplomat also continued to shape America's approach to global relationships. His calm, respectful manner became a model for navigating international affairs. Diplomats admired how he had balanced assertiveness with empathy, forming alliances through trust rather than coercion. As global interactions grew more complex, his example offered guidance for building lasting partnerships. Leaders recognized that humility and sincerity often achieved more than forceful negotiation. In this way, Benjamin's presence influenced not only American diplomacy, but the broader culture of international cooperation. Writers and artists of the modern age found new layers of meaning in Benjamin's life. Some focused on his scientific achievements, exploring them in historical fiction and biographical works. Others reflected on his philosophy of self-improvement, weaving it into stories that inspired contemporary audiences. His sayings continued to appear in books, speeches, and public art installations, reminding people of timeless truths. Through creative expression, his legacy became a bridge between the past and present, offering comfort and inspiration in an ever-changing world. As technology advanced further, Benjamin's ideas gained new significance. His belief in the importance of open access to knowledge aligned with emerging movements to share information freely across digital platforms. Researchers recognized that his commitment to collaborative learning prefigured modern scientific communities. Even his call for moderation resonated in conversations about social responsibility, environmental care, and technological ethics. People found in his writings a gentle reminder that progress must be guided by thoughtful intention, not reckless pursuit. The values he championed, practicality, kindness, curiosity, cooperation, proved resilient in the face of modern pressures. They helped communities navigate the uncertainties of a rapidly evolving world. People discovered that his wisdom was not bound by era or circumstance. It could be applied to new challenges because it rested on universal truths about human nature. Benjamin's lantern, still glowing softly, illuminated not only the paths of the past but the avenues of the future. As America continued its journey into modernity, Benjamin Franklin's presence remained quietly influential. His spirit drifted through classrooms, laboratories, government halls, and community centers, reminding people to approach life with calm reflection and thoughtful purpose. His legacy encouraged them to see the world not as something to conquer, but as something to understand and improve. And in every thoughtful decision, every act of kindness, every step toward insight, his lantern cast its warm, steady light, guiding the nation forward one gentle glow at a time. As decades turned into centuries, Benjamin Franklin's wisdom continued to flow quietly through the course of American history. His ideas outlived the world in which they were born, adapting effortlessly to the needs of each new generation. Though times changed, industries rose, technologies advanced, and social landscapes shifted, the core of his teachings remained relevant. His words offered calm guidance to those facing uncertainty, reminding them that steady progress and thoughtful reflection were powerful tools for navigating life. His lantern glowed as steadily in a digital age as it had in a world lit by candles. People found themselves returning to Benjamin's writings during moments of personal doubt and collective transformation. His emphasis on self-discipline provided grounding during times of rapid cultural change, when distractions multiplied and the pace of life quickened. Readers rediscovered his simple but profound reminders to pause, to consider, and to improve with intention. His virtues, humility, patience, sincerity, industry, became antidotes to the pressures of modern living. As individuals sought meaning in a world full of noise, his calm voice offered clarity. In schools and universities, students encountered Benjamin's works with fresh perspective. Educators recognized the evergreen nature of his teachings, using them to help young people build resilience and a sense of purpose. His autobiography, once read for its historical relevance, became a guide for personal development. Students appreciated the honesty with which he spoke of his flaws and his journey toward balance. Through his story, they learned that growth was not linear, but a lifelong practice shaped by daily choices. This revelation brought comfort to many navigating their own path. Benjamin's scientific legacy also continued to inspire new discoveries. His approach, experimenting with curiosity, analyzing with patience, and sharing with generosity, became foundational to modern research. Scientists admired his ability to see beyond the limitations of his era and to think in ways that sparked innovation. They saw in him not only a pioneer of electricity, but a symbol of intellectual courage. His spirit lived on in laboratories around the world, influencing those who dared to explore the unknown with humility and care. In the realm of public service, Benjamin's philosophy provided timeless guidance. Leaders studied his diplomatic efforts, learning how to approach complex negotiations with empathy and reason. His manner of balancing firmness with respect became a model for resolving conflict on both national and international stages. Even in moments of intense political division, his reminder of the importance of unity offered a calming perspective. His belief that a nation thrived when its people worked together echoed across generations of public servants striving to uphold their responsibilities. As American society grew more diverse, Benjamin's message of cooperation gained renewed significance. Communities recognized that his principles offered a pathway to harmony in a world filled with varied experiences and perspectives. His emphasis on listening, understanding, and finding common ground helped shape discussions about equality, justice, and shared purpose. His writings encouraged citizens to approach differences with openness rather than fear. The lantern he carried continued to illuminate the spaces where people sought connection and collective well-being. In homes across the country, Benjamin's proverbs and maxims remained beloved. Parents passed them down to their children, finding in them gentle lessons about kindness, thoughtfulness, and perseverance. His sayings were recited during moments of decision, quoted in conversations, and remembered during times of challenge. Their simplicity made them easy to recall, while their depth made them worth living by. Through these small but meaningful connections, his wisdom became woven into the daily rhythms of life. Artists and writers explored Benjamin's legacy with renewed energy. They found in him an endless source of inspiration, a man who embodied both the complexity and simplicity of human growth. His life illustrated how creativity and discipline could coexist, how ambition could be tempered by humility, and how curiosity could lead to compassion. His story, told and retold, resonated with audiences across eras. In each new interpretation, his spirit remained unchanged, calm, sincere, and driven by the desire to understand and improve. The timelessness of Benjamin's wisdom became most evident during moments of national reflection. When the country faced crises, economic downturns, wars, technological upheavals, social conflicts, his philosophical steadiness offered comfort. His life reminded people that even in uncertain times, clarity could emerge through patience and perseverance. He showed that progress required both strength and gentleness, both ambition and moderation. In these challenging moments, his lantern glowed brightest, offering reassurance that thoughtful effort could guide the nation through difficulty. By the time America entered its modern era, Benjamin Franklin's influence felt less like a historical memory and more like a living presence. His teachings were everywhere, in classrooms, conversations, public institutions, and private reflections. His values shaped the very idea of what it meant to pursue a meaningful life. And through this quiet, enduring influence, his wisdom continued lighting the way for countless individuals seeking understanding, purpose, and calm. As the world moved deeper into the 21st century, the pace of life quickened further. New technologies emerged almost daily, reshaping communication, education, and the way people understood the world. Amid this rapid change, many found themselves longing for grounding principles, something stable to anchor their thoughts and decisions. Benjamin Franklin's philosophy, though centuries old, provided this grounding. His teachings reminded people that clarity came not from the speed of innovation, but from the steadiness of one's inner compass. Digital communication allowed Benjamin's words to reach audiences larger than ever before. His quotes circulated on screens and shared spaces, inspiring people in moments of reflection. Young adults discovering his writings for the first time felt a surprising sense of connection, as though his voice had crossed centuries to speak directly to them. They found comfort in his emphasis on balance between work and rest, ambition and humility, achievement and reflection. His wisdom offered a gentle counterbalance to the pressures of modern life, reminding them to slow down and breathe. Educators embraced Benjamin's approach to lifelong learning in new ways. Online platforms inspired global collaboration, echoing his belief that knowledge should be shared freely. Students from different cultures connected over ideas, experiments, and projects that reflected his spirit of curiosity. Teachers encouraged learners to question assumptions, test hypotheses, and approach challenges with calm persistence, methods Benjamin had used throughout his life. Even as education evolved beyond the classroom, his philosophy continued to guide the way people learned and taught. Benjamin's influence also extended to conversations about ethics in technology. Innovators looked to his values, honesty, moderation, and responsibility as they navigated the moral complexities of their work. They recognized that progress carried consequences and that thoughtful consideration was essential in shaping a positive future. Benjamin's emphasis on serving humanity through invention inspired them to create tools that empowered rather than overwhelmed. His example reminded them that technology, like knowledge, was most powerful when used with intention. Communities across the nation continued to embody Benjamin's spirit of cooperation. Even in a world connected largely through screens, people found ways to support one another, build shared spaces, and collaborate on meaningful projects. Volunteer programs, neighborhood groups, and civic initiatives drew strength from his belief in collective effort. During times of crisis, whether natural disasters, health emergencies, or social unrest, his philosophy encouraged unity. People discovered that kindness and calm determination could have lasting impact, echoing the lessons Benjamin had lived by. His diplomatic approach found renewed relevance as global interactions grew more complex. Leaders studied his writings to better understand how to negotiate with humility and intelligence. They admired how he had built trust across cultural boundaries, using empathy as a bridge rather than a weapon. His legacy encouraged a form of leadership that valued listening, patience, and mutual respect. In an interconnected world where misunderstanding could travel quickly, his example offered a blueprint for thoughtful engagement. Artists, authors, and storytellers continued exploring Benjamin's life in ways that reflected modern experiences. Some focused on his invention of the lightning rod, using it as a metaphor for finding direction amid chaos. Others drew inspiration from his journey of self-improvement, seeing in it a universal story of growth. His life became a canvas through which creators expressed timeless themes: resilience, curiosity, humility, and the pursuit of understanding. Through their work, his lantern cast its glow into new mediums and new hearts. As the world confronted new uncertainties, economic shifts, environmental challenges, political tensions, Benjamin's wisdom offered comfort. His calm perseverance reminded people that even overwhelming problems could be approached one step at a time. His belief in practical solutions encouraged thoughtful action rather than despair. His gentle humor provided light in moments of darkness. Across generations, his legacy reassured people that steady, mindful effort had the power to shape the future. By the time the century's first decades had passed, Benjamin Franklin had become more than a founding father in the historical sense. He had become a spiritual ancestor of sorts, not in a religious way, but in the way his ideas nurtured the inner lives of those seeking understanding. His lantern, which had first illuminated a small workshop in colonial America, now cast its warm glow across a global landscape. Its steady light guided millions, reminding them that wisdom was timeless and that a thoughtful life was always within reach. Through all these years, Benjamin's message endured, that serenity could be found in reflection, progress in patience, and purpose in kindness. In this ever-changing world, people held his lantern close, allowing its gentle glow to guide them through uncertainty. And as long as curiosity, compassion, and a desire for self-improvement remained alive, his legacy continued, a quiet flame burning at the heart of a nation, lighting the way forward. As the world moved further into the modern era, Benjamin Franklin's influence expanded far beyond the borders of the United States. His writings, inventions, and philosophy drifted across continents, carried by educators, diplomats, scientists, and everyday people who found comfort in his gentle wisdom. Nations undergoing change looked to his life as a model for balancing ambition with humility, progress with compassion. Even in places he had never visited, his teachings resonated deeply, offering guidance in moments of transition. His lantern glowed softly, illuminating paths far beyond the ones he could have imagined. In Europe, Franklin became a symbol of enlightened thought. Scholars admired his methodical approach to inquiry and his commitment to sharing knowledge freely. His experiments with electricity influenced scientific communities across France, Britain, Germany, and beyond. Educators incorporated his principles into their curricula, emphasizing curiosity, practicality, and the importance of questioning assumptions. His story, a tale of a young apprentice who rose through determination and learning, inspired students who sought direction in a complex world. Through these channels, his ideas became woven into the intellectual landscape of many nations. In developing countries seeking models for progress, Franklin's life offered valuable lessons. Leaders admired his emphasis on civic responsibility and community cooperation. They saw in his approach a blueprint for building institutions grounded in service rather than power. Libraries, volunteer organizations, and local improvement societies began appearing in places where such resources had once been scarce. These efforts reflected his belief that the strength of a society lay in the character of its people. In this way, his influence reached communities striving to uplift themselves through education and mutual support. Scientists around the world drew inspiration from his spirit of discovery. They appreciated not only his achievements, but his mindset, humble, observant, and persistent. His willingness to publish openly and credit others set a standard for scientific collaboration. Researchers found in his letters and essays a model for approaching the unknown with both rigor and curiosity. His legacy encouraged them to pursue knowledge for the betterment of humanity, echoing his belief that scientific progress was a shared endeavor. His lantern shone especially brightly in laboratories and classrooms where new ideas took shape. Benjamin's example also influenced global approaches to diplomacy. Foreign ministers, ambassadors, and peace negotiators studied his calm and respectful methods. They admired how he had navigated complex political landscapes with sincerity and quiet intelligence. His ability to build trust across cultural barriers provided a valuable blueprint for resolving modern conflicts. Leaders recognized that diplomacy grounded in empathy and listening created more enduring solutions than forceful negotiation. His steady presence served as a reminder that kindness was a powerful tool in international relations. In countries experiencing rapid modernization, Benjamin's philosophy offered balance. His guidance about moderation, responsibility, and thoughtful living provided anchors for societies grappling with technological and cultural shifts. Educators referenced his virtues, encouraging youth to cultivate patience in a world that often rewarded haste. His belief in lifelong learning resonated in nations investing heavily in education and innovation. Through these adaptations, his wisdom found new life in contexts far removed from his own. Cultural movements across the world embraced Benjamin's spirit of self-improvement. People adopted journaling practices inspired by his virtue charts, using them to reflect on personal growth. Communities held workshops on goal-setting, discipline, and resilience, drawing directly from his teachings. His approach to living a meaningful life, grounded in small, steady steps, became a universal message, resonating with individuals seeking purpose amidst the complexities of modern existence. His lantern, though originating in colonial America, became a guiding symbol for anyone searching for clarity. Artists from various cultures reimagined Franklin through their own lenses. Some painted him in modern settings, symbolizing the timelessness of his wisdom. Others wrote poems and essays exploring his philosophy of gentle progress. His sayings appeared in artwork, films, and music, providing moments of pause and reflection. Even far from the world he knew, Benjamin's presence encouraged creators to explore themes of growth, curiosity, and compassion. His story became a shared cultural reference, a testament to the universality of his values. Through all these expressions, Benjamin Franklin's legacy transcended time and geography. He became a figure not of one nation, but of the human experience. His life illustrated that wisdom, when rooted in humility and openness, could illuminate paths across centuries. His lantern's glow stretched outward, touching communities, ideas, and individuals in ways he could never have foreseen. And as the world continued to evolve, his teachings remained a gentle guide for anyone seeking understanding in times of change. As the world entered an age defined by interconnection, the influence of Benjamin Franklin took on a more personal dimension. People no longer saw him solely as a historical figure, but as a companion in their own journey of self-discovery. His teachings became mirrors in which individuals reflected on their habits, choices, and aspirations. His virtues, once written to guide his own improvement, became tools embraced by people seeking direction in a world full of distractions. His lantern became, in a quiet way, part of the inner landscape of many lives. Everyday individuals found comfort in Benjamin's encouragement to grow steadily rather than hurriedly. His belief that improvement came through consistent effort helped people navigate personal challenges. Whether overcoming fear, building confidence, or cultivating patience, they turned to his example for reassurance. His emphasis on acknowledging shortcomings without shame inspired them to accept themselves more gently. His message, that change was not a sudden leap, but a quiet unfolding, offered peace to those seeking balance. Students embraced his curiosity as a model for learning. They approached their studies not as burdens, but as opportunities to expand their understanding of the world. Benjamin's own journey taught them that learning did not end with graduation. It continued throughout life. Many developed the habit of exploring new subjects simply for the joy of discovery. They found that curiosity, once awakened, became a steady companion that brightened even the most challenging days. His influence nurtured in them a lifelong love of learning. Professionals across fields, from medicine to engineering to the arts, found inspiration in his multidisciplinary spirit. They admired how he had moved fluidly between roles: inventor, writer, diplomat, scientist, and community leader. His journey reminded them that identity was not fixed, and that they too could explore new passions without fear. His encouragement to embrace both creativity and structure helped them navigate complexities in their careers. Through his example, they discovered that a thoughtful, curious mind could adapt to any challenge. Families incorporated Benjamin's lessons into their daily lives. Parents taught their children his simple proverbs, helping them understand complicated values through memorable words. These sayings became gentle anchors, guiding decision-making and shaping character. Families created traditions around reflection and gratitude, drawing inspiration from Benjamin's virtue-based journaling. In quiet moments, they spoke of kindness, responsibility, and patience. And in doing so, they passed his lantern from one generation to the next, Communities embraced his belief in unity and shared purpose. Local organizations formed to address common needs, embodying the spirit of cooperation Benjamin had championed centuries earlier. Neighbors helped one another during difficult times, demonstrating the power of collective compassion. They recognized that Benjamin's lantern was not held by one person alone, but by all who contributed to the well-being of their community. His philosophy became a bridge connecting individuals, strengthening bonds through thoughtful action. In moments of personal transition, people often found themselves drawn back to Benjamin's story. Whether beginning a new career, facing loss, or pursuing a dream, they saw in his life a reminder that change could be approached with grace. His resilience in the face of uncertainty offered encouragement to those navigating unfamiliar paths. His calm demeanor reminded them that strength did not require harshness, and that clarity often emerged from stillness. Through his teachings, they learned to trust the slow unfolding of their own growth. Benjamin's life also offered a timeless message about balance. He understood the importance of rest, reflection, and moderation, lessons especially relevant in a world that often prioritized constant motion. People found comfort in his reminder that a meaningful life was not defined by relentless achievement, but by thoughtful intention. His philosophy encouraged them to honor their limits, nurture their minds, and take quiet moments to appreciate the present. His lantern glowed softly in moments of pause, illuminating the beauty of simply being. As individuals cultivated their inner lanterns, they contributed to a larger collective light. This shared brightness touched families, communities, and societies, reflecting the interconnected nature of human progress. Benjamin Franklin's influence became not just a historical legacy, but a living presence within each person striving to learn, grow, and serve. His message, gentle, patient, and enduring, encouraged people to embrace the journey of becoming their best selves. By the time this chapter of human history unfolded, the glow of Benjamin's lantern had become part of the world's quiet background. It was there in classrooms, libraries, neighborhood gatherings, and moments of private reflection. It lived in the hearts of those who sought understanding and compassion in their daily lives. And even though centuries had passed since Benjamin walked the streets of Philadelphia, his spirit remained close, a gentle mentor, guiding humanity toward wisdom, kindness, and thoughtful purpose. As the world entered a new century, Benjamin Franklin's presence became more than a distant memory. It became a quiet thread woven through the fabric of everyday life. People might not always speak his name, yet they lived by principles he had cherished. Children learning to read by lamplight, inventors tinkering with new ideas, neighbors helping one another through hardship. All these moments carried echoes of his gentle guidance. The lantern he lit centuries ago continued to shine, not through grand monuments, but through the small, thoughtful choices people made each day. His influence lingered like a soft breeze, subtle yet ever-present. Modern society, with all its speed and complexity, often found itself seeking wisdom from the past. In this search, Benjamin's words resurfaced again and again, offering clarity when life grew overwhelming. His reminders to pause, reflect, and act with intention soothed minds accustomed to constant movement. People discovered that his teachings were not relics of history, but living truths adaptable to each era. His calm voice felt like a companion, steady and encouraging, urging humanity to move forward with patience rather than haste. In the fields of science and technology, his spirit of inquiry continued to inspire. Researchers exploring the frontiers of medicine, energy, and physics carried forward his belief that curiosity was the spark of progress. They approached their experiments with the same blend of discipline and wonder that had guided him during his electrical studies. Though the tools had changed, sophisticated machines replacing glass rods and metal keys, the essence of discovery remained the same. His influence reminded scientists to search not only for answers, but for understanding. Communities around the world also reflected his ideals in their social structures. Organizations focused on service, education, and public welfare drew inspiration from the institutions he had founded. Hospitals that prioritized compassionate care, libraries that offered free access to knowledge, and volunteer groups working to support the vulnerable all echoed his philosophy. They demonstrated that progress was not measured solely by advancement in technology, but by the kindness extended to others. Benjamin's belief in civic duty quietly guided these collective efforts. In homes and workplaces, individuals continued to rely on his simple proverbs for grounding. These sayings, concise yet profound, offered guidance through financial decisions, interpersonal conflicts, and moments of self-doubt. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, influenced health practices. Lost time is never found again. Encouraged focus. Do good to thy friend to keep him, to thy enemy to gain him. Promoted compassion. These timeless reminders helped people navigate life's complexities with clarity and calmness. As the world faced new moral and ethical challenges, Benjamin's values offered a compass for thoughtful decision-making. Leaders grappling with questions of justice, equality, and responsibility found comfort in his emphasis on reason and fairness. His life demonstrated that progress required not only intelligence, but empathy, an understanding of how actions affected others. His writings on humility and self-reflection encouraged decision-makers to examine their motives and approach their work with integrity. His lantern illuminated the deeper truths beneath public debate. People experiencing moments of transition, moving to new places, beginning new careers, or stepping into new roles, found reassurance in Benjamin's personal journey. His life reminded them that uncertainty could be fertile ground for growth. He had reinvented himself multiple times, each transition guided by curiosity and courage. His example encouraged individuals to embrace change rather than fear it, trusting that patience and dedication would steady their steps. His calm resilience offered comfort to those navigating unfamiliar paths. Artists continued to explore Benjamin's legacy in new ways. Photographers captured images inspired by his lantern, soft light illuminating everyday scenes. Writers crafted poems that mirrored his gentle humor and thoughtful presence. Filmmakers depicted his life through modern metaphors, connecting his values to contemporary struggles. Through these creative expressions, his influence flowed into spaces he could never have imagined. The arts carried his lantern into hearts that might never have encountered his writings directly, keeping his spirit alive through story and emotion. As his legacy moved through time, it became clear that Benjamin Franklin's influence was not confined to institutions or policies. It lived most vividly in the quiet choices individuals made, decisions guided by compassion, curiosity, and reflection. His teachings encouraged people to live with intention, approach challenges with steadiness, and treat others with kindness. These small acts, repeated across generations, formed an unbroken chain of light. The lantern he once carried now glowed in countless hands, each adding to the brightness of a more thoughtful world. As humanity looked toward the future, the world grew more interconnected than ever before. Cultures blended, ideas spread rapidly, and technological advances reshaped daily life in ways that would have astonished earlier generations. Yet even in this dynamic landscape, Benjamin Franklin's teachings remained relevant. His message of balance between innovation and responsibility, ambition and humility, community and individuality, offered clarity in a time filled with both opportunity and uncertainty. His lantern, symbolic of wisdom and calm, continued to guide humanity into new terrain. Young people discovering his teachings felt an immediate connection. They saw in Benjamin not an outdated historical figure, but a relatable guide. His early struggles, his experiments, his missteps, and his triumphs mirrored their own paths of growth. His resilience in the face of setbacks encouraged them to persevere. His curiosity inspired them to explore new fields of study. His kindness reminded them to remain grounded in compassion as they pursued their ambitions. In this way, his wisdom became an anchor for the next generation of thinkers, creators, and leaders. His influence extended into conversations about global responsibility. As nations faced challenges such as climate change, economic inequality, and technological ethics, Benjamin's emphasis on cooperation and thoughtful action became increasingly valuable. Leaders sought solutions rooted in unity rather than division, echoing his belief that collective effort was more powerful than individual ambition. His teachings encouraged nations to share knowledge, support one another, and approach global challenges with clarity and empathy. His lantern illuminated possibilities for peaceful collaboration. In families, Benjamin's wisdom continued to shape daily life. Parents taught their children about diligence, honesty, and the value of curiosity. They encouraged them to ask questions, to explore nature, and to pursue knowledge without fear. These lessons echoed Benjamin's own childhood, where curiosity had been his guide long before he achieved recognition. Through these family teachings, his legacy remained personal and intimate, a quiet presence nurturing the next generation with gentle, steady light. Communities embraced his philosophy of service in evolving ways. Volunteer organizations expanded their reach, addressing issues such as digital literacy, mental health support, and environmental protection. These modern forms of service reflected the same principles Benjamin had championed centuries earlier, that ordinary people, through small acts of kindness, could make extraordinary differences. His belief in practical compassion guided communities toward projects that uplifted the vulnerable and strengthened the bonds of shared humanity. In the realm of personal development, Benjamin's emphasis on reflection found renewed importance. People struggling with the fast pace of modern life turned to journaling and mindfulness practices inspired by his virtue charts. They used these tools to track their habits, understand their emotions, and cultivate inner calm. His message, that wisdom emerged from consistency and self-awareness, offered comfort to those seeking clarity in a world of constant stimulation. His lantern glowed within these quiet, introspective moments. Even as technology advanced toward artificial intelligence, virtual experiences, and space exploration, Benjamin's teachings remained grounded in universal truths. They reminded humanity to ask not only whether something could be done, but whether it should. His values encouraged individuals to approach innovation with thoughtfulness, considering the impact of their choices on future generations. His legacy became a moral compass, guiding scientific and technological progress with kindness, humility, and responsibility. Through all this, Benjamin Franklin's lantern remained a symbol of enduring wisdom. It represented humanity's shared desire for growth, understanding, and compassion. Each generation held it briefly, adding their own experiences to its glow before passing it forward. The lantern's light, steady, warm, and timeless, reminded the world that progress was not defined by speed but by purpose. It whispered that wisdom was not found in noise, but in reflection, and it taught that kindness above all could shape a brighter future. And so, across centuries and continents, the story of Benjamin Franklin becomes more than a tale of invention, diplomacy, or political achievement. It becomes a meditation on the quiet power of a thoughtful life. His journey, from a curious boy in a crowded Boston home to a guiding figure for an entire world, shows that wisdom grows through patience, curiosity, and compassion. His lantern, lit long ago in the stillness of candlelit nights, continues to glow in the hearts of those who seek understanding. As you reflect on his life, you may feel that same gentle light within yourself, a spark of curiosity, a desire to improve, a calm sense of purpose. Benjamin teaches us that this inner lantern is the beginning of wisdom. It guides us through uncertainty, encourages kindness, and brightens the path toward a more thoughtful world. No matter how complex life becomes, this lantern remains steady, waiting for us to notice its glow. The story of Benjamin Franklin reminds us that greatness is not loud. It does not demand attention. It grows quietly, through small choices, through steady effort, and through the courage to remain curious. And as long as there are people who seek to learn, to reflect, and to offer kindness to others, his lantern will never fade. It will continue shining softly, a warm, gentle guide, lighting the way forward for all who walk with intention.